Hello and welcome to part 2 of our Steven Spielberg retrospective. This is the Sausage Factory Season 7, Episode 10. I'm your moderator, Pizzal. Joining me tonight, I have a great man.
Hey, Piz, what's up?
I actually have a man that Steven Spielberg I wasn't supposed to say anything, but Steven Spielberg is currently working on a biopic for him. I'm talking about the Venerable Orc.
Wow.
What's up, homie? Yo, one foot in front of the other. It's not 1 day at a time. It's not 1 hour at a time. It's not 1 minute at a time. It's 1 second at a time. Cheers to my homies. Rest in peace. Insert random guy who died.
Now, did you have any input as far as who the actor is that's going to portray you in this biopic? Because my money is on Fred Durst.
Oh,
That's a brilliant pick.
I don't know. There's a lot of memes. I'll probably get like Daniel Day-Lewis to put on like 150 pounds.
It's got to be Pauly Shore.
come out of
Pauly
I can perfectly see Pauly Shore. I can see the weasel, do the memes.
All right, what's better, Biodome or In the Army Now? I like In the Army Now.
Biodome.
Biodome.
In the
Even though
Army
it's
Now.
one of the worst movies ever made, still something about Biodome.
Suck on this one time.
John Goodman can play you on your deathbed.
Oh shit, he's good, man.
The final days of Orc is just like John Goodman up on the bed going, too much soda.
Shout out to John Goodman. Watch the Gambler remake. It's fucking awesome. He doesn't have that much in the movie, but the 15 minutes he does, he's like, and if you fuck me over, I will kill your whole bloodline and every other people. He's like, and every other person that's related to you in life. And I'm like, holy shit, this is a performance.
I think
Sitting there
John
all bald.
Goodman gets away with that. Like, he's so good at it because it's like he was always historically like a funny guy, like a comedy actor. And I just always find it really chilling when those guys play like a hard ass or like a killer or somebody really violent because it's like, oh, hey, it's Dan from Roseanne. Oh, God, he's like threatening to kill my family. Oh, Lord.
It's King Ralph. Oh, shit, he's scary.
I love him in Fallen because like he's basically just like sort of like a bitter, nice guy cop, but then he gets taken over the bad guy, and he turns into the bad guy at the end. So that's kind of cool too.
Wow!
So you get
Great
to see
reference.
you get to John Goodman like be sort of normal John Goodman, and then turn into evil John Goodman.
You see the duality of John Goodman.
Fantastic reference. I haven't thought about that movie in forever.
John Goodman trying to murder Denzel Washington out in the snow. I always liked it. It's not a great film by any stretch of imagination.
Fallen? You talking about Fallen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's all right.
Well, Orc, how's it going?
Just memeing 1 day at a time, It's almost spring, so that's cool. So, less chance of slipping on ice and killing myself. That's always a plus.
It's always a plus, yeah.
Mike, right? Yeah, Mr. Indiana. Yeah.
Hey, what's ice? I've heard about this stuff, but I got some in the freezer where it belongs.
Hey, you got some other ice too. You got that dank necklace, man, that cost $70,000. Dude, that bling is tight, bro. Yeah.
Mid 80s, mid 60s, good times.
Okay, I shouldn't say this, Mike. You're probably gonna hire a hitman to kill me, but you think Flavor Flav's got some ice? Holy shit! You should check out Mike's collection. Just go on his Instagram if you don't believe me. But,
Wow. His Instagram is pretty gas.
Yeah.
That's my new word, gas.
Yeah.
If something's good, it's gas.
That's lit.
Yeah. So this is going to be a gas show, and Orc, you're a gassy SOB.
Fuck yeah, bro.
Right.
Yo, Mike, can I get a rip? Can I get a vape rip? Vape Nation?
Sure, why not?
But,
Hold that shit in, Mike.
Are we vaping on the what's it, the purple nurple, or what's it called down there?
Still doing a Jam Monster Strawberry,
Jam
man.
Monster, okay.
Stuff's like crack to me. I can't get away
Pass
from
it to the left, son.
Well, let's move right along and see how the professor's doing. How you doing tonight, Mike?
Hanging in there, man. Doing pretty good. All the sunshine's killing me. I don't know if I can handle it.
Like dwells in darkness. The sunlight burns.
Because I feel like I live on the sun, so it's refreshing to be in the dark.
Mm. Also with me tonight's Cole. What's up, Cole?
Not much at all. There is some ice here, but I mean, I think this was the warmest February of my entire life. I was baffled by the temperature swings we would have. You know, I could go out and be so mild and stuff. So I couldn't do any skating on the oval by there and stuff. So now we're into March and I don't know what to expect, but I don't know. We have 2 maybe decently cold days in February, which is always the coldest month. So yeah, climate change is a very real thing. Because if you told like my 8-year-old self that like we would have days like this in February, I would have thought you were crazy. Like it was just the warmest February.
It already feels like spring here. I mean, it's already like, you know, the days are getting longer. It's warming up. We're getting a lot of rain. So I mean, it's spring already. So yeah. And Eric is with us tonight. How have you been, Eric? We've not seen you in a while.
I'm good. I'm very, very good. I'm sorry I missed last week. Definitely had some opinions on that, but glad we could catch up.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Also with me tonight, the Stingray. What's up, Stingray?
What's up?
What are we drinking tonight? That cup is way too small, Stingray.
Well, I've got the regular over here. Don't worry.
Okay. Well,
it's a triple espresso. I was going to shoot real quick.
Okay. Triple espresso. Just down.
Shit, man! Remember what happened to Kevin Smith a couple days ago? Chill.
Nah, he's a pussy.
Can't handle it.
Well, how have you been, Stingray?
Good, man. Good. I'm feeling good. Little tired, but that should help.
You got over the flu, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Good. And just in time for tax season. And you are crunching those sausage factory numbers, right? You're going to get a huge return for us, right?
I'm working on it, guys. We'll see.
Okay. Good.
Time will tell. Hit up that Patreon.
Okay. Yep.
I'm telling you, you got to change your name to Erwin R. Shyster.
Goodness. Ed, with me tonight as well as Rambo Raff. What's up, Rambo?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure. Well, how have you guys been? Have you seen any good movies since last week? Any non-Spielberg movies since last week? Put it that way.
I saw Black Panther.
Yeah, I did.
People have.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just kind of underwhelming. You know, I didn't think there was anything specifically bad about it. It was just, I don't know, just a bit impatient with it, and you know, I kind of just want to get to Avengers. It was okay. I mean, it had some good performances. Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger is pretty good. You know, they do a good job of making Wakanda look all, you know, crazy and futuristic like it's supposed to, and stuff like that. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I was just,
Okay. So kind of underwhelming then, huh?
Yeah.
What about you, Eric? Did you say you've seen it?
I did. I don't know that I'd call it underwhelming, but I didn't think it was like the cultural event that's going to change society, like all the articles and news stories that I've been reading. I thought it was entertaining and I enjoyed it, and I definitely would echo praise for Michael B. Jordan, who I have thought and is an amazing actor ever since he was on The Wire and then Friday Night Lights and then Creed, and then does everything that guy does. He's just really, really good. So he's awesome. But if anything, that's almost a detriment because he's sort of like out acting, and sort of like his charisma is better than Black Panther a little bit. I mean, yeah. I kind of empathize with his position to some extent. Not that I'm, you know, looking to destroy the world or whatever it was he was trying to do, but I liked it. But I was underwhelmed from what I was expecting based on how everyone was talking about it.
Right,
that's the way I'd put it.
Rambo, you did a review, right?
Well, he liked it.
Yeah, I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I hated the movie. The acting wasn't the problem. The actors did fine for what they have to work with. Michael B. Jordan, I think, did fine. I thought the action scenes sucked for like the 3 that they had.
That wasn't on the same level as other Marvel movies for that.
The first scene, I couldn't tell what the fuck was going on. All I saw was muzzle flashes. And then the end fight was like Mortal Kombat Annihilation. It was just fucking CGI video game. And I thought it was overlong. I thought it was boring. And I'd rather watch Blade and Blade 2. But the actor's not the problem. I just think it's overrated.
I'd definitely say I would choose Blade 2 over Black Panther. Blade 2's money.
Mm-hmm. Blade 2's gas, for real.
Yeah.
You're really trying to make that happen.
And
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Actually, Cole, I think, is the one who said you just kind of want Avengers Infinity War to get here. Apparently, so does Marvel, because that was the big news today that they've moved it up a week. So I'm just psyched about that. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
on
on the
April.
27th now, not May 4th.
Sounds good to me. That's a birthday present right there.
There you go.
Nice. Stingray, you saw Annihilation. How was it?
It was okay.
Okay.
It's very kind of a thinker, kind of a think piece type movie. It's kind of interesting. One of the big producers on there wanted to kind of dumb it down so it could appeal to more of a wider audience. But the guy that actually had Final Cut agree with the director, Garland, and decided not to do that. But I like it. I haven't read the book or anything, so I don't really know what all is going on there. But I did enjoy it. It was some cool stuff in there. Natalie Portman's always good. Just I don't know. It kind of I haven't really formed an opinion about it yet. It's still a lot going on.
Is it the kind of movie you need to watch more than once to kind of wrap your mind around?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah,
okay.
I don't know if they kind of set it up for a sequel or what. So it's based. I think there's 3 books in that series. So
okay,
they're probably trying to do a series of movies.
They did I have no idea what it's about. The trailers did a good job of just kind of selling the mood and the atmosphere, but not what it's about. I know Natalie Portman sticks her hand in a big giant alligator's mouth or something. That's about it. That's all I know.
The trailers pretty much showed all the action sequences in the film. So
yeah,
I didn't see that. I only saw really slow stuff in the trailer. I didn't see any action.
Yeah.
It's definitely a film that's probably not going to do well, as monetarily.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. What are the critics saying?
I've heard good things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I've heard people saying it's scary, but I never trust that. Is any of it scary?
They're talking about one scene in particular. It's
yeah.
It was a good scene. It was well done, but
yeah.
I'll check it out if you want to.
Cool. Well, that's the same. The Alex Garland, he did Ex Machina.
Mm-hmm.
I know him as I think he was the writer on 28 Days Later.
Yeah, he wrote. He started out as a novelist. He wrote the novel for The Beach, and then he wrote the screenplay for The Beach, and then he sort of transitioned into screenwriting and now directing. And
yeah, I think he wrote Dread as well.
He wrote. Yes, he did. He did. Yep, he sure did. So talented guy.
But yeah, you guys check it out. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's bad in any means. It is a lot of lulls in there, but if you're expecting an action film, it's not that.
It sounds like a better Prometheus.
Yeah, could say that.
I mean, I don't know much about it. Just from the trailer, it seems like a better Prometheus. They go in.
It's really messed up because basically what it is, it's not really a spoiler, but this alien, it's just a big mass, and it basically changes the DNA of everything in there. So you've got plants that look like animals and plants and animals that are mixed together. And it's just lots of weird shit going on. So I mean, it's kind of interesting in that regard, and leaves a lot open to interpretation. So
yeah, Blank Screen is better than Prometheus.
I don't care for Prometheus.
I'm trying to find out when I'm looking on IMDb right now to see when what's that movie with John Krasinski that he directed?
Oh, it's like what is it? A Silence or
something.
A Quiet Place.
Quiet Place. Yes, I'm trying to see when that comes out because I thought that came out sometime.
April, I think.
Oh, that shit's gonna be gas. I guarantee it.
It will be gas. I promise. Unsane, which is a Steven Soderbergh horror flick, comes out this month.
Oh no!
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
Teaser I saw for it looked ridiculous, but it was very short. So
And then that Demon House, Zach Baggins documentary movie or whatever it is comes out this month too.
You don't know that.
It's,
Oh, and the new Tomb Raider. Everybody's looking forward to the Tomb Raider reboot, right?
No, because I played the game. It looks like they just like let's do a film version of the game. Like, okay, why? The game's right there.
I'm only excited about it because it does look like Walton Goggins from The Shield and Justified and not Inglourious Bastards, whatever was a Hateful Eight. He's in it, and he's just awesome.
Yeah.
So perhaps he'll at least lend some gravity to the villain character.
You forgot the best show he's in, Easy Vice Principals. Yeah,
that's true. He's also on Vice Principals. Good call.
I'm not gay. God damn it.
Yeah, he's funny in that show.
That Tomb Raider film looks mediocre as fuck.
It's directed by a guy named Roar Utag.
Oh man, it's gonna be good.
Guten Abend.
That's racist.
I'm sure it'll be better than the 2001 one. I have no doubt about that. If that's such a low bar, it doesn't. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know. Is that something to judge against?
I actually like that first movie with Angelina Jolie. The sequel was sucked, but I like the first one.
I hate Angelina Jolie as a character so much.
Well,
and Lara Croft's not even one of those video game characters that I really care that much about. Like, there's ones that are way higher. And yet I still just could not stand Angelina Jolie.
She had key characteristics that put her in the starring role. So that, I think, that might be why.
Right.
Well, that's something they scaled back for the reboot.
Well, because this is more like a reboot based on like the new game.
Yeah, that's
like
what I mean.
Saying, it's like the brand new reboot Tomb Raider game.
She has like a bow and arrow and shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Looks like that kind of deal. Oh, I think we were talking offline about this. I did see that Netflix movie, a futile and stupid gesture, the Doug Kenny movie.
Yeah, I really like that.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought was real solid. In fact, I was starting to watch it and I was thinking, like, the first 5 or 10 minutes go by and like I didn't really laugh at all, and I was kind of like, oh man, is this just going to be kind of like an interesting movie? And then all of a sudden, like, something happened and it just was really funny, even right up until the end. And I didn't actually know, like, I knew the name Doug Kenny, and I guess I sort of generally knew that background with National Lampoons and stuff.
Yeah, same here.
I definitely didn't know he co-wrote Caddyshack, and I definitely didn't know he hated it. But I didn't know what happened to him, and so like as the movie's getting like closer to the end, and he's like continuing to like get worse and worse. I actually had to go to the bathroom at one point, so I paused it, and I just saw how much time was left in the movie, and I was like, I don't really see how is this going to end in any satisfying way. And then it was like, oh, okay, I see what happens here. All right. But oh yeah, really good though. Definitely.
Well, that's why I liked it. It was informative because I was centered the same way. I knew who he was generally, and I did know he died and stuff. But the movie really filled in a lot of blanks for me and stuff like that. And I don't know, it seemed like they had a lot of fun making it with the different actors playing the real people, little people. Even just little things like somebody playing like 1977 version of Lorne Michaels, and stuff like that.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting about it was, because Chevy Chase is like an asshole now, and I think he probably always has been. But
there's quite a few stories backing that up.
Right, but he sort of came off like the scene where he shows up at like the Caddyshack like thing and he falls down. Like Chevy Chase is like the guy who gets up and helps him out. And he spent time with him. He seemed like a genuine friend to him. Right. And so, I don't know. I just kind of found that interesting. Because I always sort of like, I don't know, any story where like there's someone that you think and it like has only this one characteristic, to see that other side of them, I just think is interesting. And so that was kind of cool.
Chevy Chase had to have at least a few real friends, you'd think. Even if most people he worked with thought he was an asshole, you'd think he'd have somebody that liked him. So yeah. I guess this was one.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a fun movie. Plus there's a part, that where they, they're always talking directly to the audience and breaking the fourth wall and stuff like that. And then there's a part where they point out one of the differences they made for the sake of the movie. And they're like, in fact, here's all of them. So if you can pause it, you get the whole long list that you can read of all the things they changed from history, just, for the purposes of editing and pacing and all that. And I was like, I kind of wish all movies would do that. Yeah. It makes me feel better. Because every time I see them, I always have to point out how they're different from myself.
And that, to me, that actually gave me the freedom to enjoy the movie for what it was, because they make a crack in the movie too about like, yeah, this guy doesn't really look very much like Bill Murray, or I don't know if that was the guy, but like this doesn't really look like this guy. Yeah, and it like they kind of, once they did that, it kind of gave you the freedom to just like enjoy this thing. Like, we get it, you know, this isn't going to be like an exact perfect replica of this actor. Just watch the story. And something about that was just like, oh, okay. And it didn't bother me. Because again, the dude, in fact, Bill Murray, maybe that's on the top of my mind, because I didn't think the guy playing Bill Murray was all that great as Bill Murray, but it didn't matter. Like, again, the movie sort of freed you up to enjoy it anyway. So yeah, anyway, saw that. I thought it was great.
Well, let me give some shout outs here to the people watching along with us in the live chat. We've got our buddy Steak Sauce, Rocky Voorhees, Jacob McCollum, DJ Donley, Cole is Gay is here with us tonight. How are you, sir? Or ma'am? Joe Caraluzzo, how are you doing tonight, sir? Max Punishment. Josh O'Brien. Got a pretty nice chat going on tonight. Hope you guys are all doing well. And also, we have gotten last week. I asked you guys to give us a list of movies that you want to see us do a live commentary for. So let me give a let me see, where's my list at? Because there were some really nice suggestions. Where is my list? Here it is. RoboCop, The Burbs, Mad Max, Return of the Living Dead, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, License to Drive, Uncle Buck, Ticks, Soul Man. There were a lot of good choices thrown in there. I'm also going to add to the list, of course, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
So
Uncle Buck stands out to me.
Yeah.
That what a random choice, but I can't remember the last time I've sat and watched that movie like start to finish, except for like pieces of it whenever it's rerun on TBS like 40,000 times a year.
Yes. We need to do a John Candy retrospective.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
That's a good one.
I absolutely agree. I'm going to tap that out. As a matter of fact, John Candy retrospective. So, of those picks, RoboCop, The Burbs, Mad Max, Return of the Living Dead, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, License to Drive, Uncle Buck, Ticks, and Soul Man. You know, we're just going to do a Big Trouble in Little China live commentary period. We're not going to give you guys the choice anymore because you guys just don't want to see it, apparently. We want to do it. So, but of those picks, which ones do you guys want to see us do the most? I'll narrow it down to like the top 4, and then I'll let you guys out there vote, and that'll be our Viewer's Choice live commentary. So of those picks, I'm going to copy them and post them in the chat right now. Well, that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. Let us know which one you guys, or of all those movies there. Let's narrow it down to about 4. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and let's dive into the retrospective. Last time we started with Duel, and we worked our way all the way through the 70s and the 80s, and tonight we're going to start in the 90s and conclude the filmography of Steven Spielberg. And we are starting with one of B-Movie Mike's personal favorite Spielberg films, Hook. So take it away, Mike.
Oh. Pass. That was a fabrication.
I was going to say, that's your favorite, Mike? That's cool.
No, not by a long shot. I'm actually not a fan of this movie, pretty much whatsoever.
Maybe Toby Hooper directed that one, and he just was paying that. He made Spielberg take the blame for it.
I said something earlier before the show that it's kind of the worst of some of Spielberg's habits, and I also think it features some of the worst parts of Robin Williams' acting. He was a good actor, a very funny guy, but I thought that when he went for the drama, sometimes he went just a little too far. There's really nothing about this movie that I enjoy. I guess Dustin Hoffman chewing up the scenery as Captain Hook would be like maybe its only redeeming quality.
Yeah.
Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell is like whatever. I don't care.
That's like the worst part
come
for
on.
me.
Yeah,
I can't stand her as Tinkerbell.
I was going to say the only thing that I really remember about that movie is Dustin Hoffman's performance. And when you said Toby Hooper, it kind of, I mean, I got a flash of Robert Englund in The Mangler and like Dustin Hoffman as Hook. And like, you know, they're both that kind of over the top maniacal, you know, both of them have like peg legs, you know, or well, Robert Englund has like metal legs, but whatever. But I couldn't help but make that comparison. Are there any fans of Hook here, even mildly?
I'm a mild fan, but I mean, I totally accept all the criticism it gets because I've pointed out. And for me, yeah, Julia Roberts is the worst. Like, not just because I don't like the actress, but I'm just like, where are they getting this weird interpretation of Tinkerbell? She's supposed to be like the one feminine thing that like balances all the stupid boys. Instead, they make her like the biggest tomboy of all. And she's like, Jake, and she never shuts up. She talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. Come on, Peter, we're gonna go to the different level. And she's talking in rhyme and all this shit. Like, why did she have so many lines? And so I guess because she was becoming a big star and it was a big deal. And she's got the short hair. Yeah, they just tomboy the shitty little. You know, she's Tinkerbell. She's supposed to be, you know, a little feminine fairy. Instead, they turn her into this annoying, loudmouth tomboy with all sorts of. And plus, the most nonsensical stuff that happens in the movie is centered around her. Like the fact that apparently she could just beat the pirates all by herself, apparently. She's got super strength. She can haul Peter all the way to Neverland, which is somewhat of a distance from London, I'm guessing. She can pick pirates up and throw them through windows. And then there's this whole scene where for no reason she gets big just so that she can make out with him and then go back to being small, which really doesn't fit the tone of this kids movie that we're doing here. So but I don't know. Talk about firsts and stuff. So E.T. was the first movie I saw on video, and it was also the first Spielberg movie I saw. And then I've got my relationship with the Indiana Jones and stuff, and there's some other firsts. This is the first Spielberg movie I saw in theater. 91 was sort of a big year for me in theater. I saw this and The Beauty and the Beast and possibly something else. So, you know, I was a pretty young kid still in 91, so this is sort of the beginning of my trips to the theater becoming more of a regular thing as I got older and stuff. So, and it's actually a theater, even though it's a really long time ago, and there's dozens of movies I've seen since that I don't remember too well. I really do remember that experience. I remember in 1991 seeing it in the theater and stuff. So stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. Like E.T. is also a kids movie. This is a kids movie, but it's like all the worst parts of his sentimentality like rolled into one movie kind of thing going on. Like people said, I do like Justin Hoffman. You never would have thought of him as a role because he's so small and stuff. But you know the way they film it, he doesn't look too bad, and he does a good voice and stuff. And I mean, you do have to admit that. Yeah, probably. You have to admit that like Bob Hoskins is like a stroke of genius as Smee, even though it's a small role. I mean, he's perfect. But I don't know. It's even weirder. Like if you met somebody that had never heard of it and described it to them, you realize just how weird it sounds. Like, I'm used to it. We're all kind of used to it because it's been around. It's a Spielberg movie and stuff. But if you just sort of try to, like, put all that aside and just look at it, like, objectively, it's really weird. But anyway.
It's kind of fucked up that people young as us when we saw it didn't like it more because we were, like, the main demographic then. I mean, I was, like 11 or something, 10 when it came out. And, you know, I think the younger folks that were maybe like 5 or something around then probably like it more than we did.
I'm in between that.
Yeah, I think I might fall closer to that. I definitely don't hate it like Mike seems to hate it, but I can't hate it. I don't like. It was like my feelings of it are sort of torn up with like outside stuff because that was one of those movies that was rerun all the time on like TBS and TNT, and so I just started to hate it because of that. Like I see it all the time, but if I can just try to step outside myself, I don't know. Like I agree that it's that like I don't know that it even feels like a Spielberg movie. Like when we were talking about it, and I even just doubled when I checked, I was like, oh yeah, that is a Spielberg movie. Just doesn't really feel like one. Like it's got like a lot of different quirks and things that I don't know that it shows up as much in some of his other movies. Conceptually, I think the idea is really interesting. Like, what if Peter Pan grew up? I think that's really interesting. I don't know that the execution is what it needed to be. And by the way, I don't know. I kind of thought Julia Roberts was hot, but
Me too.
maybe that's me. And the way she kind of comes on to Peter towards the end of that movie, I was sort of like, I don't know. I was digging that.
I think that's really weird in that movie. Really weird things. Like, we got to have a scene where for some reason she becomes human sized and they can make out because of all that sexual tension that needs to be released in this movie. Really? This is the place for it?
That was my only takeaway.
I can't explain why. I'm just telling you it's sort of it's a gut feeling. Maybe not exactly gut, but
all right, let me float an answer to Orc. Orc, Julia Roberts, yay or nay?
Oh damn. I've had a few tapes that are, not working correctly. But as for
Roberts, what tapes would those be?
That was the babysitter movie that I had to watch a shit ton. That and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and some other shitty movies. And so all I have embedded in my brain from like the mid '90s is just like, oh, here's a bunch of pretzels and fucking peanut butter crackers, and oh look, it's Hook again, and I'm like, fucking kill me. It's like a little kid. There's a little kid. He's like, I'm smart, and you can't tell me different. And I'm like, oh my god, shut the fuck up. Kill me, please. That was my childhood. That's why I'm so fucked up.
It just has so many weird choices with the sentimentality. Like, just so many weird moments and lines that don't seem to fit at all. Like, they make it really hard, like, for this whole run home Jack thing. Oh, they're playing baseball, and they're saying home run Jack. But they have it backwards. He's just like, run home. Like, that is not good writing. That's just weird bullshit that takes you out of the movie. There's a whole scene where the little girl who can't sing sings a song, and the pirates watch her. What is that? Like,
oh my god, it's so stupid.
That's what I mean. I don't necessarily hate the movie. Okay, there's no hate, no seething rage toward this film. It's just Dustin Hoffman's good. Forgot about Hoskins being in there. He's always good. But other than that,
There are aspects I like. I like the music, the score.
Score's good.
But it was one of those movies for me that the point of the film where Robin Williams' character is such an asshole. He was such an asshole for so long that when he turned, I didn't care. I just still felt he was an asshole. Like,
even in '91, that was a super overused trope that they use all throughout the '90s. They still do. It's like the overworked father that like loves his family, but he's so busy working, he doesn't have any time for them. And I mean, like, the biggest cliche is missing a kid's baseball game, and that's literally how the movie starts. He misses his kid's baseball game. Like, I just feel like when they're doing these emotional, sentimental cliches, they could have at least put a little more effort into them to make them a little less on the nose. But they're all the right on the nose types of things. It's like, oh, I missed the baseball game, slugger, but I really do love you. I'm just a hard-working lawyer. And then there's a bunch of lawyer jokes. Like, I'm worse than a pirate, I'm a lawyer. All this,
I'll stick with Jingle All the Way.
There you go.
With a father, at least that's funny. Like Hook, I didn't find any jokes funny. Was it the fat kid that turned into a ball and ran over people or something? Like,
oh god, I forgot about that.
What do you want to do with the cookie?
Put it in your mouth, or
no, put that cookie down.
There you go. You had to get you to say
I thought you were going to take that cookie and stick it up your nipple.
Yeah.
That's what I was waiting for, but he didn't go that route.
I did it all for you. Come on, the cookies. Come on, so you could take that cake and eat it with your steak. Yeah.
But as Eric said, like, it does have some interesting ideas, if not too well executed. The idea that, like, he's forgotten that he's Peter Pan, and the Wendy is now like an old woman that looks after like orphans and stuff. I mean, it's kind of neat. Although again, it's really weird. So Wendy was the original kid taken to Neverland to like see Peter Pan and the other Lost Boys, including her brothers and stuff. And she has like weird sexual awakening, prepubescent adventures with him. And they're kind of like, but then she goes back to the real world and says, no, I have to leave all that behind and grow up. And then she grows up and then she has a daughter. So then Peter Pan comes and steals her away. And then he's just like, okay, I'll come into the real world. So then he marries her daughter. Like, that's just a bizarre cycle that's going on. It's
kind of like Captain America getting with Agent Carter's
Agent 13.
like niece or whatever daughter. I think in the comics she's their daughter, but still, it's a little like that.
I used to like sleep with your great aunt.
No, that's some soap opera shit right there.
Well, Well, let's go ahead. Let's move on into a.
What did you think, Fizz? You didn't.
The only thing I remember about Hook is Dustin Hoffman.
I don't know how you can't remember it. I've seen it 20,000 times. How have you managed to avoid it over the years?
I think I just skip it. I see it on, I just skip it.
It's about 2 hours too long. I know that much. I don't know that I've ever been conscious through the entire thing.
See, for all the negative things I've said about it, something still has pulled me into, like, I remember perfectly, because, like, the last time I saw it was probably within the calendar year. So there's obviously something I do like about it for all I've bitched about it.
I mean, there's like 10 times where it should end, but it continues on for like 3 more hours after that point.
In his fight with Hook, he has like 3 chances to kill him, and 3 times they go, no, it'd be better not to kill him. And then Hook, of course, does the predictable bad guy thing and just tries to kill him anyway. Like, it happens like 3 times before that crocodile falls on him.
I actually didn't like that. I wish the crocodile had been in the movie. That seems like an arbitrary complaint, but it always kind of annoyed me.
It's
that
depressing.
Just, like, the crocodile
He did kill it.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's just such an iconic part of that lore to just have it just be this random thing in the middle of the town. I don't know. That kind of annoyed me, but again,
we have a special guest, guys.
Oh my god!
Keep rolling. Yeah.
If that doesn't break your neck, I don't know.
Fred Durst has joined us tonight. Fred, how are you, sir?
Pretty good, because I know y'all been loving this shit right here, ORC, motherfucker right here.
Fred.
Hands in the air.
So did you sleep with Thora Birch? You got Thora Birch, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is it time to break stuff?
And if my day keeps going this way, I just might post some memes tonight. I pack a chainsaw. This is watching TSM Raw. I mean, TCM Raw. Yeah. And if my day keeps going this way, I just might break your fucking face tonight. Give me something to break. Do. All right, I'm sorry.
I break all your fucking tapes.
Just keep going. Let's turn this whole episode into
about your fucking my space.
What constitute copyright infringement on here? Are we close?
No, we're very close to his intellectual property. Yeah.
If you don't be watching Hook, you don't feel like a fucking crook.
Well, I guess it will be nice.
That rhymes almost too quick.
Wouldn't kill himself.
I think this counts as satire.
Everybody's got a bolt of like mud.
It's a loving homage.
It's fair use. It's satire. It's an
One thing I'll give Hook that it was smart to avoid was, like, can you imagine if they'd included any of the awful, like, Indian stuff that's in the original story and the horrifying Disney movie? Like, holy shit. Like, you should watch the Disney movie again and just see how goddamn racist that shit is. So they're just like, you know what? There are no Indians in Never Never Land. We're not going to touch it. Which I think
when
is
I was
very
a little
smart.
kid, I used to watch Peter Pan, like, every day. That was, like, one of my kid movies. And, yeah, it's sort of
warped your mind.
You're like, wow, interesting.
I said the same thing when I watched it a few years ago with my kids. I was like, wow.
The only thing that could have made Hook better would have been a Limp Bizkit soundtrack.
It was just too early.
I mean, that's it. That's the only thing that could have saved the movie. And, oh, well. Let's move on. The year is 1993, and Steven Spielberg had a really good year in 1993. He released one of the biggest box office hits of all time, and he released the film that won him the Academy Award. Let's talk about Jurassic Park first.
Oh, I thought you meant Carnosaur.
Carnosaur's good. I like Carnosaur.
That's one of the few movies I ever turned off. I hated Carnosaur so much.
I like dinosaurs too much to sit through Carnosaur.
When the Carnosaur takes the payphone and it starts calling, that's brilliant. Brilliant.
You know, they made like 4 of those, right?
They made a bunch.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
3. I actually like the sequels more than the first one.
I can see that.
If you've not seen, oh my God, what's that movie with Denise Richards? Something in the T-Rex.
Tammy and the T-Rex is like Paul Walker's in it.
Such a good movie.
My God.
Such a good movie. Such a good movie. She actually, it's a love story between
a
Denise
good
Richards.
Movie, really?
I love it.
I disagree with that.
It's a love story between Denise Richards and a dinosaur.
Just the Paul Walker's brain just put into a dinosaur.
R.I.P.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pour one out for my homie.
And then at the end of the movie, literally, he is a brain in a jar, and she's doing a striptease for him.
Yeah.
That's hot.
Somehow I've seen that scene. I must have.
Sounds like something
I
Denise
saw
Richards
that.
would have done. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that scene somehow.
You probably saw it on some sort of compilation of the most ridiculous.
Yeah. I
What
would
the
assume
fuck?
something.
Mr. Skin. It was on Mr. Skin.
Mr. Skin. Yeah, that was it.
Skin matters.
Well, Orca, I know, or I'm sorry, Cole, I know you're a big fan of Jurassic Park.
Oh, okay, sure.
Go ahead and just get the ball rolling on JP.
Okay. And I'm sure like people that are like longtime viewers of the show have already heard me blab about my attachment to Jurassic Park, so I'll try not to be too long. But yeah, so here's another first for me. So I was like 10 when the movie came out, and I've talked about, it wasn't until I was probably about 20 that I became, more of a movie guy, as we are. You make your transition from casual to. Anyway, my point is, that was the first time in my life that I anticipated the release of a movie. It was before like the internet's everywhere, but this is the first, back in the day, if a movie came out and I liked it, that was good. But I didn't, I wasn't in the headspace where I was like, anticipating movies releases or sequels or anything like that. But this movie was huge news. I'd already read the book when I was 9, when I was way too young to have read the book. Probably couldn't get half of it, but I just was the other thing is, I was a big, big dinosaur fan as a kid. That was my thing. I've had a lot of interest through my life. The earliest one, besides just like drawing until I realized I had no talent for it, was dinosaurs. And I used to draw a lot of dinosaurs and stuff. So, and I knew a lot. Like I didn't just get like kids books on dinosaurs. I had like big, expensive books, that like are for adults and stuff. We'd go on trips and stuff to museums, and I'd see the dinosaur bones, and then there'd be like some $40 book in the gift shop, and I'd be like, I want it. My parents were probably like, I guess it's educational, and they'd get it for me. So I had a lot of like high-end dinosaur stuff, and I memorized the shit out of it and stuff. So it was going to be a big deal that he was going to do this movie. And as I said, this is the first time for me. This is more Mike's territory. What he remembers before the internet, how you would hear about movies in like newspaper articles and magazines and stuff. But I can remember like buying like magazines and stuff specifically because they had information about like Jurassic Park coming up in like the next few months and stuff like that. So it was a huge deal for me. And of course, people know, if anybody remembers the story, I had chickenpox and didn't get to go. I had to wait 17 years to see that movie in the theater. Wow. It was still awesome, but so yeah, so there was a lot of lead up to it.
Had you read the books? Had you read the Michael Crichton book?
Yeah, like I said, I was only 9 when I read the book. I was way too young, but I was just so into it. I remember the one I got out of the library. I don't know if you can find it. It was such an old copy. Like it doesn't even have like a dinosaur or skeleton on the front. It had a syringe on the front. It was a big green hardcover and had a syringe on the front called Jurassic Park. Nice. And I had an older one. Here's my new copy that I bought about a year and a half ago. It's nice to have a new copy. It's not all battered to shit and stuff like that. But I mean, and as I said before, as like probably the main guy in here that complains about adaptations of books and all the changes and how they're not as good and stuff, like this is one of the ultimate ones where I feel like they did such a great job, even though they make lots of changes. They do. Yeah. There's all sorts of things they do differently, and I'm fine with almost all of them. Maybe the big one I don't like the most is what they do to the lawyer Gennaro. Gennaro is not such a bad character in the book. He's just kind of an okay guy. And actually he's somewhat athletic. He fights off a velociraptor. Yeah. He survives the book. And like the other characters still don't like him, and they talk about how he's like on the wrong side of things and kind of greedy and avoiding responsibility and stuff, but he's all right. And this, I guess they were just like, we don't have time for every character to have that, which I guess they're like, let's just make Gennaro be a Weasley lawyer stereotype and we'll kill him in some hilarious way. Okay, fine. I don't mind it. I know a lot of people like that. He's this greedy little bastard that gets eaten off the toilet.
I was going to say, he's the guy that gets eaten on the toilet, right?
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, I don't like that, but I can live with it. But and lots of other things too. Like and if I had to make a big dinosaur emission thing that bothers me, I understand why they didn't want to do this, because the T-Rex is the main attraction. Obviously, everything is building up to the T-Rex. He's the ultimate. But in the book, there's a juvenile T-Rex that does a lot of awesome stuff, and is my favorite of the toys. I have his toy, and I feel bad that he's not in the movie.
Well, we can get to this when we get to the Lost World, but they take a lot of the concepts, I think, of like the junior T-Rex from the first book, and there's elements of that in the second book. Kind of. There are pieces to that they do in the Lost World, and even in some of the other ones, I think.
Yeah.
Utah Raptor's the best toy.
Yeah. Awesome toy. That's true. The Utahraptor was discovered around the exact same time
Mhm.
as the movies are coming out, so it's a big deal because it's true there were no raptors in North America. They were all over in Asia, and they were like, there is a kind of raptor over here in North America, and it's bigger. So everybody's flipping out about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that.
A replica of the claw. This fucker's like this big, man. It's massive. Of the Utahraptor claw.
But anyway, people already know I love the movie. It's I only hold the Indiana Jones ones higher than this. Otherwise, it'd be my favorite. If the Indiana Jones movies didn't exist, this would be my clear cut number one. The casting is really great for most part. I think they really nailed the casting, and they didn't just go with big obvious stars, which I really applaud them for.
Mm-hmm.
None of those people were like big names necessarily.
This was just one of, but at the top of the list of Goldblum's sexiest performances.
Oh, for sure.
I think because he was a star, he'd been in stuff before, but I definitely think Jurassic Park is kind of what propelled him into the status he had, the meme status that he has now. Because just like everything he does and says in that movie is like, you guys I'm sure have seen on YouTube, like it's just like a 2-hour-long remix of that laugh he does, like that, like that, just over and over again on YouTube. It's funny.
Well, there's a Funko Pop of him like with his shirt open and him like kind of posing and
the one where he's like injured in back at the base or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was a good actor before this, but this put him on the map. And this was, he's one of my favorite guys to see. But this is still like I think the role he was like born to play. So good at being like this, somewhat, smug intellectual type, but also kind of a womanizer and all this stuff. Like I think he just nails it so well. And I see how they're trying to legitimize this new Jurassic World by having him in it at the beginning. I saw the preview the other day when I went to see Black Panther.
Yeah.
But I mean, just really great casting choices. Again, Grant is quite different from in the book. But I didn't mind it because I like the way Sam Neill did it. They make him a little more cynical, I guess. In the book, he actually really likes kids anyway, and he's kind of a big friendly guy with a beard and stuff. They're like, I know originally they were like, maybe Harrison Ford. And Harrison Ford's like, even I think that's too obvious, and then they left it alone. I'm glad it was Sam Neill and stuff.
I think at one point they wanted Kurt Russell for the role.
That would have been interesting, I think.
I'm not saying Kurt Russell can't play a smart guy. I think he can, but I don't know.
Wasn't there an idea that James Cameron wanted to do it, but it was going to be more of a horror action film like Aliens, his Jurassic Park?
As much as I love James Cameron, I'm glad that didn't happen. Just like I'm glad his Spider-Man didn't happen.
I think James Cameron could have done the version of Jurassic Park that was a lot more like the novel, because like the version we're talking about, the Spielberg version. It's like inspiring, and it's like he's all about the awe and then kind of the father, typical Spielberg stuff. I don't know that James Cameron would have done that as well, but he definitely would have done, because the book is very science fiction-y, which isn't to say that like the movie is missing those elements. The whole thing's built upon that, but it very much gets into like a lot of the science. And there's a lot of like more philosophical debates. I quite like the book, by the way, but I completely agree with Cole that it's one of the few examples out there where there's a book, they make a movie from the book, the movie's radically different, but it seems to me like all the changes that they decided to make were exactly the right ones. And it might just be the case that as a movie, that's what, like, if you were going to take this book and make it a movie, this is what you needed to do to make that story palatable for the screen. Because I completely agree with them. I do like that some of the concepts of the first book appear in the sequels, which, again, I guess maybe we'll talk about later, but I still largely like it.
It's too bad they can't get too much into like the science. Like, there's chapters in here with little asides, like talking about how InGen grew from this tiny little company and how it became this big force, and all, and in the context of how the field of like, on genetics, how that was becoming like one of the big, most rapidly growing sciences, and how companies are springing up all over the place, and how there was competition, which led to Biosyn, which doesn't even get name dropped in the movie, which is too bad. But the guy that hires Nedry at the beginning, Dodgson, he works for Biosyn, which is a rival company in the same thing, and they're just sort of full of people that are even less ethical than InGen, and they're prepared to do industrial. Because there's some cool stuff about industrial espionage and stuff like that, which the book and the movie just goes very quickly over. And I think that's the big failing of Jurassic World, the movie, is like that continues that plot in the book, which is wonderful, and they throw it out the window for the movie, and that really bothers me because like Dogson's like a main character in the Lost World, the novel. But anyway, I'll say in there, but I've taken too much time. But anyway, I love the movie. You know, all the obvious things. Once again, you've got Spielberg working with John Williams and just creating these great big wow moments with wonderful music. And they just did a great job of making the park seem so authentic. It seems so authentic. And it's so funny too, because obviously a movie is something you can spin merch off anyway. So you get like the shot of like when Hammond's like sitting around like near the gift shop and the cafeteria and they have all this merch hanging up. Like all that is just real stuff that they could just really sell that I remember seeing all over the place in the early 90s. You know, I had a Jurassic Park t-shirt and stuff like that. Like that stuff was all there. And I think they did a really good job of like putting a lot of work into making it seem like a real park that was really going to open and not just some made up thing in a movie.
You were going to say something, Rambo?
No, I was just, I do like Jurassic Park. It would just, I mean, they'll never do it, but it'd be nice to one day see like a hardcore version of Jurassic Park with dinosaurs with a budget. They'll never do it because it would take so much of a budget, and they don't, a lot of times don't do that for R-rated films, but I would like to see that.
Well, Jack Craven posted in the chat, he was like, yeah, that's true about James Cameron's idea for his version of Jurassic Park, because Cameron described it as aliens with dinosaurs in R-rated action sci-fi horror. And I'd love to see that.
That sounds cool.
Yeah,
That sounds cool to me. Yeah.
I see that with Kurt Russell, man. I'd see that. But I like Jurassic Park, just do both movies.
Yeah.
I think James Cameron should have done The Lost World, really. If James Cameron did The Lost World and they made it closer to the book, it would have been awesome. Because there's a particular scene that I really like where they're like trying to get into this, you know, they're on the other island. They're trying to get into this, everything's broken down and overgrown. They're trying to get into this lab and stuff. And they're discovering all this stuff about the problems they were facing and how these dinosaurs kept having some sort of weird, not disease, but something that was breaking them down and dying. And there's like this busted lab and they're being stalked by these two, I can't remember what kind of dinosaurs they were, but two kind of like theropods and stuff. And they have like camouflage and stuff. I don't know. That all seems very James Cameron to me. That would have been cool. And of course, nothing like that appears in the movie, which is really too bad.
Well, have any of you guys seen the movie recently? And how do the
other day
special effects how have they aged?
I feel like they still are. They set the standard, really.
Yeah, that was actually. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. But see, this is why you're the moderator. That was actually going to be a point I wanted to make. Is that they absolutely set the standard. That's a movie that was made in 1993, and you watch that movie, and they are so seamless. And I think even if you look at like Spielberg's career, he's had a couple of opportunities where he's like been dealing with like groundbreaking visual effects or just a lot of special effects. And he grounds everything, both in the way that he shoots it and the way that he focuses on like the human characters, that just, it all blends together really well. I mean, the T-Rex, the raptors are so frightening because they, you know, it feels like you're really there with them. Like he does a very good job of conveying that. I think they hold up. I mean, God, they're better than effects you could see in a movie. Like, I'm willing to bet, and I'm going to love the movie anyway, but it's probably going to be better effects than we're going to see in Infinity War here in a month and a half. So there you go.
I think it was going to be something we were all going to talk about. Definitely something I was going to talk about. I still hold these effects as the benchmark for every new film that I go see. Because if you can't be better than what was in 1993, then why do you even bother? Especially if you have a budget, right?
Well, that was
if you got a huge budget, you can't do better than that. Then you're not trying.
Why is that the case?
Laziness, I think, is a lot of it.
Yeah, laziness, or I don't know. Maybe it's just lack of desire, lack of creativity. Maybe it's more about the money and less about the art. I don't know. We could go into that, but you know, he made a decision to go away from stop motion because originally they were going to use a thing called Go Motion.
Yeah,
Phil Tippett, and
they show some of that on the
it didn't look real enough. So that's when Winston and ILM got involved, and they did a mixture of puppeteering and CGI. And like Eric said, it's still seamless. It's beautiful. It is the benchmark for effects for me.
Mike, I think that's the key, is that it's a blend of practical and CG. And I think far too often in modern movies, it's all CG. There's nothing practical. I mean, yeah, you might have a guy wearing a dot suit or somebody with like a big puppet in a dot suit that, you know, they apply the graphics to later. But, you know, there was an actual giant T-Rex puppet that I mean, that's the thing that like is like nosing right in front of Grant and Not Ellie, but the girl when they're out by the Rex cage.
Even to make it more realistic for the CG, they brought in Tippett with his animatronics, his little skeletons that he had for the puppets, and they actually had him do the movements, and then they captured it in the computer, and then they used that as the basis for the CGI.
Right.
So it was all different kinds of elements coming together, and I don't know if you see that kind of creativity. If people want to go to that much trouble anymore. Back then those guys were artists. Now we just have, I don't know. I mean, I think the result speaks for itself.
Blade Runner 2049 did that and it flopped.
Well, the thing
that's
that
what people want.
I remember the most about the release of Jurassic Park, people weren't excited for the story or the fact that it was based on like a bestseller, or even the fact that I thought it seemed like dinosaurs were secondary. It was all about the effects and how real everything looks, and how much money they spent on these effects, and they're so the effects are so. Go watch this movie for the effects. That's it. You know what I mean?
They optioned the book before it was finished, so it wasn't like the book had time to become a classic before they made it into a movie. I mean, they were kind of working on both at the same time. I mean,
the book was only around for about 3 years before they started making the movie.
And it had been batted around because Spielberg wanted to work with Crichton, and there's all this stuff going on. So, I don't think anybody really knew about the book until after the movie came out. At least the casual audience, the people that went to the movie, they went to the movie because
people who were Crichton fans obviously knew, because he was a big established New York Times best-selling author. He reeled off all sorts of really popular books that had become movies before. This wasn't even new for him.
Jurassic Park had a much bigger,
but on this scale, it was bigger. It was much bigger. Steven Spielberg and all the money behind it. So that's true. But yeah, I mean, as you said, like Spielberg and the people that made it understood. Like the whole movie hinged on if the dinosaurs didn't look real, nothing. It didn't matter how well they did everything else. Everything hinged on these dinosaurs. They have to look real. If people go into the audience and go, "Oh, that just looks like a toy. That looks fake. That looks stupid." Nothing. The brilliant music, the good casting, the attention to detail. None of that's going to matter. So they really, understood this was the core of making the movie a success. Is you have to have dinosaurs that the audiences are going to buy, and not just be like fake.
Spielberg was able to draw upon his experiences with the classic Jaws, of course, which will always be my #1 Spielberg film.
Mm-hmm.
Raiders being #2, and Jurassic Park coming in at #3. Jurassic Park is one of my. I can't say. Maybe it's the best film of the '90s. I mean, it's
my favorite.
Close.
It's my favorite film of the '90s.
Yeah. Classic.
And Cole just mentioned it. We hadn't talked about it yet. The music. John Williams again brought his A game. The iconic Jurassic Park theme, and there's just a ton of additional the main theme of Jurassic Park is great. Then there's the quieter kind of softer theme. Tons of great. Again, just John Williams at his absolute best.
And it's another
that to me, I think, makes the movie as powerful as it is.
It's another great understanding of the spirit, because this is not a monster movie. The dinosaurs are animals. They were real animals that lived in the world and stuff. So it's not just all about look how big and scary they are. There's quiet moments to it's look at these animals. Before we were ever close to existing on the earth, they owned the earth. All this is conveyed through some of this music. You really get that. It pulls back the wide shot at the beginning, the brachiosaurs, and you see the hadrosaurs over by the lake. I mean, it's wonderful because they're just saying, this was the world before us. These aren't just a bunch of scientific monster creations made in a Frankenstein lab.
Mm-hmm. Well, Claire, our old friend Claire, her husband actually works in the special effects field.
Oh, nice.
And she's posted some things in the chat about how the studios want to go cheap on the effects, so they'll outsource them to smaller companies or even companies outside of the country, and even then not give them the time or the resources to do the job, and that the big companies, the ILMs of the world, will bid on these jobs. The studios know that they're the best, but they don't want the best. They want cheap and quick.
Cheap ass motherfuckers.
Yeah, they want cheap,
and they get, and the results speak for themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why they can suck my dick.
In our little offline chat, though, I do need to mention. I was reminded, and I always forget. That Samuel Jackson is in this movie until I watch it again. Samuel Jackson paired with Spielberg. I think his role's awesome. He doesn't get to do all that much, but it was recently revealed, which I didn't know. And I don't know, Cole, if you're like all about this movie, maybe this was something you knew and only recently became widely available. But like, in the movie, Samuel Jackson's character dies, and all we ever really see is like his arm. It falls on Ellie when she's trying to turn the power back on.
An off-screen death, which I'm usually very critical of. I usually hate the off-screen death. This time,
right?
I'm more or less okay with it. It's a good reveal. The arm,
right?
Okay. Sorry,
right.
Go on.
Well, no, there was recently some articles came out. I think Samuel Jackson said like he was having an interview somewhere, and he just said like, hey, I was actually supposed to shoot a death scene where like you see the dinosaur kill me, but it was I forget if it was like he couldn't go because there was like a storm, or he couldn't get out of whatever his other like scheduled gig was at the time, so he didn't do it, and they just kind of came up with the arm bit, which I agree with Cole. I actually think was effective. I think it was fine. But again, we missed out on some extra Samuel Jackson scene chewing. So
the hurricane did hit Hawaii while they were shooting, and they shot footage of the storm, and that's in the movie.
Then maybe that's it. My apologies if you guys just look online. This story came out I think within the last week or two. So you can see it, and it's Samuel just talking about that he did this. So it was something that maybe was in the script or storyboarded, but he was planned to do it, and he just wasn't able to.
The hurricane, I think, delayed shooting for a while because they didn't have power, of course, and destroyed a bunch of the sets. But that probably delayed the shoot.
I'm sure the line was, "I'm getting ate by this mother effing dinosaur."
I was gonna say, can't you get away with one F-bomb and a PG-13? So why didn't
these motherfucking dinosaurs on this motherfucking island?
I hate this hack of shit.
No, you didn't say the magic word.
Oh God! I know when he yells "please," it would have been so much better if he just motherfucker,
please, motherfucker.
What direction is so great because he's got the cigarette in his mouth. He's like,
Would it have been cool if like he was being eaten by the dinosaur and like he looked at the camera and goes, "This thing's breath smells like shit," or something like that?
He studied under Dan Aykroyd for keeping a cigarette butt like affixed to his lip no matter what he did.
See, he's only a minor character, but even the minor characters are cool.
Right. That's the thing. Like every character, if anything, that is actually maybe one complaint I do have about the changes from the book is that there's actually a pretty sprawling cast of characters in the book. The movie really pares that down, and to the point where, like, at the end of the movie, there's really only like 5 or 6 people on the island. In the book, there's a lot of people, like the science dude who actually is in the current crop of movies.
Woo.
His name's escaping me. Woo.
Yeah, he gets killed.
He dies, but he and his whole team are there. And so it's something that like the movie makes it smaller and more about this smaller group of characters, which is maybe more effective for making it seem more claustrophobic and scary. But I don't know. There's just other things and other characters that got to do some cool stuff.
Well,
Hammond dies.
I always assumed in watching it that there were still characters that were around that we didn't see because they still had to run the goddamn island. Because there's a part like where they say to him, they say people are dying. So I'm just assuming there's some staff that's probably getting killed. Even though in this they have various people survive that don't survive the book and vice versa and stuff. Just like Muldoon survives the book, but they kill him in the movie. Hammond survives the movie, but they kill him in the book. I also like this take of Hammond. Hammond's much more. He's a lot less sympathetic in the book. He's just more of a guy that just wants to. He's arrogant and he just wants to make money and stuff. And he has a really kind of funny death because like he has like an injured leg, and then when he falls down, he just gets killed by the really tiny dinosaurs, the Kaposisnaguses, or however you say them, the little tiny guys. He gets ripped apart by them, and the thing is, for artistic license, because they have to with some of the dinosaurs, is they have sort of like a mild, like sedative poison type thing that almost makes it pleasant. He's like numb, so he's kind of so as they're ripping him apart, he's like happily thinking about how he'll do it better next time and stuff. And I understand why they didn't fly. And what's the name of that actor? Is that Richard Attenborough?
Richard Attenborough.
I like he couldn't have played that character. He brings a much more grandfatherly, warm character, who's out to show people the wonder. I'm fine with that. That's okay. That's
Walt Disney.
Yeah, that kind of thing, right? He's like, I just want to show the children the wonder. That's fine. I don't have any problem.
For everybody.
Like that.
Yeah.
So
And
they
what
were,
he-
of course, they weren't going to kill that guy off because that'd be too sad.
what he plays, I think what he plays in this movie is more hubris, which is more, I think, in Richard Attenborough's like wheelhouse. Like he had the best of intentions, but like Malcolm is telling him, he's like, you may have the best of intentions, but like you don't really understand what you've done here. His death, by the way, is like that concept was reused in Lost World.
Yeah,
the real jerk off dude from the Big Lebowski dies that way. Yeah.
Now, what if they had gotten Gary Busey? Dude, or if you got Gary Busey play that role, maybe.
I wonder how many people know that Attenborough beat out Spielberg for directing Oscar in '83.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he directed Gandhi and, of course, Spielberg for E.T.
Gandhi, yeah.
Yep. Orc, you've got a real big fan in the chat named Joe Caraluzzo who would love for you to give him a shout out. Will you give Joe a shout out, Orc?
Yo, what's up, dog? What's up? Yo, I'm going to give you a shout out, Joe, with my buddy Liu Kang. Wait for it. Mortal Kombat scene. Wait for it. There we go, right at the end. I am the chosen one. There we go.
Nice.
Shout out
Mortal
to
Kombat
you, boy.
theme song still gets stuck in my head sometimes, by the way. That's good stuff.
Does anybody have anything else they want to say in closing for Jurassic Park before we move on?
Well, I just wanted to say, look at all the cool stuff that Sam Jackson did even before Pulp Fiction. He was in Goodfellas. He was in Jurassic Park, True Romance.
And he likes to point that out more than anybody because, like, I remember an interview like 10 years ago. He was saying like how his movies grossed more than Harrison Ford's. I was like, yeah, but they're not your movies. Like Jurassic Park is not your movie, and Star Wars trilogy is not your movie. You're just in them. But anyway, it's no big deal. But Sam Jackson's a cool guy.
Orc, we've also got people in the chat wondering why you're wearing an Eagles hat. Have you bandwagoned onto the Eagles now?
I'm representing the youth of America today, and whether it's Golden State or Philadelphia, the Eagles, I just root for whatever. It's not like I've been a Patriots fan for like 20 fucking years.
Wait a minute. After that whole rant on Philadelphia, like a week.
You can't beat them, join them, right?
You called them like garbage people or something, didn't you?
I did. But if you're keeping track of the meme, I'm doing this just for the memes. That's why I'm doing this.
I can respect
this hat if you didn't call me
pretty far. That's pretty good.
Those fair weather fans can suck my ass. Yeah, I get what you're doing.
Yeah.
Did you go to Lids and make a purchase?
My head's too fat, bro. Lids, I
almost showed you, Mark.
15.
Like within 5 minutes of the Super Bowl ending, I got a girlfriend of mine bought a hat for me at Lids, and so I'm on their mailing list. Within 5 minutes of the Super Bowl ending, I got that big email that had all this merch that was like, Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl champions and stuff. I almost forwarded it to you. I was like, no, that'd be too mean.
I saw a funny tweet from Butterfingers. It tweeted it. Brady said, "Oh man, thanks for endorsing our brand so much during that game."
Or just decided to drop the zero and get with the hero. That's all.
Yeah, Yeah,
Eagles fans for life.
Yeah. Yo, I'm from Philly. From Philly, yo. Give me that cheese.
Yo,
Philadelphia freedom.
Yo,
you're dedicated to the meme, man, for real.
Yo, I'm from Philly. Yo, there was a movie about us with Marky Mark. Yo, I'm gonna grab
Invincible, bitch.
Our most beloved athlete is a fictional character. I got
the best thing about Philly. Like, I love the state of Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh is the shit as a city, but I just can't get behind Philly and in terms of sports teams. I still remember they won a playoff game. They won a playoff game, and there was a guy on the train, and he was recording a guy getting a blowjob from his girlfriend on the train in Philly. I'm like, that's Philly. Yep, that's Philly in a nutshell right there.
There are some videos like that about Bills fans too. Like there's one where it's like some dude is like pouring vodka like down his girlfriend's ass crack and like drinking it as it comes out. So I'm not defending that or the Philly thing, but I'm just saying there are videos for all
over.
There's probably shitty people in every city, I would imagine.
Yeah, there are garbage people everywhere. That's true.
What they say about Buffalo Easy is like after tailgating, after everyone leaves, when it's late at night and people are going home, it's like a Mad Max apocalypse, like wasteland. There's just like garbage cans and pizza boxes all over the place.
I've been there, man.
Orchard Park. Yeah,
I've been there, and it's an environment like unlike any other. It's really great. It's a lot of fun, but yes, I can only imagine what that place looks like when they're done with it. There's this old dude, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to take the show, but like there's this old dude, like it's a tradition before every home game, he's the ketchup guy. He like comes out, and then right before you go in, everybody like shoots ketchup all over him. They like bring, and it's, I know it's gross. I hate it, but and he goes into the game that way. So that's a thing that you now know about.
I think it's just some guy that has like a weird sexual fetish that found a way to like normalize it. Like it's a fan tradition thing, of course.
Oh, I have to do it.
It's for that football squad.
Love me. I'm cool, right, guys?
I don't know if it's
all
an age
over
thing
me.
or not, but you see somebody with the champagne down the ass crack thing, and the first thing I think as an older person isn't like, wow, that looks sexy. It's like, gee, I hope she washed her ass first.
Trust me, that is exactly what I thought. I was like, first of all, she's been out there tailgating a while. I don't know about this.
South real quick.
Oh my
Well,
God.
the vodka disinfects it, Mike. So don't worry about it.
Mad Dog 2020 on that ass crack.
I want to pour some Faygo down.
You know that happens at some ICP concerts.
No, that's too expensive, bro. I only use RC Cola when I tailgate. That's all I can afford.
That's a question for Orch. What drink would you pour on an ass crack?
And whose ass crack would you pour it down?
Oh God!
What director?
Oh my God! The chick who did the Babadook, probably her, and I'd use Dr. Thunder or Mountain Lightning.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'd be.
Oh wait, no, the Soska sisters. I mean, everyone looks just like crazy about them.
Those drinks do not have
You can do one on each.
properties.
Could do Dr. Thunder on one and Mountain Lightning on the other.
I wish I had more hands. Could I give those titties 4 thumbs down?
Willie Mays Hayes is Black Thunder.
I'm sure
James, bitch.
a chill just went up the spines of both Soska sisters right now, wherever they are in the world.
We are now in the proper frame of mind to discuss Schindler's List.
Oh yeah, jeez.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Fuck yes, it is. I'm gonna go make a sandwich. You guys can take the floor. Here you
let's move on to the feel-good hit of the summer of 1993. And that is Schindler's List. And Orc, you're our Schindler's List specialist. Why don't you get the conversation started about Schindler's List?
All right. Well,
and keep in mind, let's not get banned off YouTube for whatever comments you're about to make here.
okay, all right. Well, so there was a thing. It was called World War II. It was pretty bad. We joined the party late. It wasn't really a party if you think of it that way. Hitler was a bad man, and he stole his stash from Chaplin. So I mean, that's a fuck up right there. That's when you know you're going to lose the war. The Holocaust did happen. I don't care how much you listen to Alex Jones. It's complete. It was a thing. It happened, and you know, that's all I'm gonna say. I can't really meme too hard on this one. This one, I'm not. I don't celebrate Hanukkah, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not what people think Mike is.
Not anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
It's not funny.
I'm not what people portray Mike as. I'm not that kind of person. As much as it seems like I hate everybody and don't care about anyone, but that's all I got to say. I need some drinks here. I'll see you soon, boys.
That was a great history lesson. We're gonna start calling you the professor from now on.
Oh. Also, wait, before I'm done, let's finish. But check out the World War II video of Mussolini getting like everything thrown at him when he's hanging from a noose in like Italy somewhere. That's a pretty meme-tastic video.
Not safe for work.
It's on. Ooh, that's that. Yeah, NSFW. Sorry if you guys already typed that in. Search for it. But ooh, yeah, damn.
Wait. Just to recap here, Hitler was a bad guy. You said.
Yeah, he was the bad. Well, it depends who you talk to. Like if they voted for Trump, they probably like him. Oh my God.
The bomb was dropped.
Oh my, that's like
Hitler was a socialist.
That's like Buffalo Wild Wings extra spicy wings. That's like the Wing Shack. That's right. Okay, I'm gonna get death threats. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Hitler was lefty's greatest hero.
There you go. Thank you. I'm glad someone said it.
He was a socialist, the National Socialist Party. Thank you very much.
Yes, the National Socialists are pretty different from other socialists, but yes. Because, I mean,
That's
look,
true.
I mean, the communists hated Hitler. I mean, the Russians hated him more than any. They're the main reason, and we're not going to get all into it, but yeah, like, the Russians
That's
deserve
true.
the most credit for getting rid of Hitler. And, yeah.
And
Well, it's
he
true.
had,
Stalin
this
did kill
program
about 30
for
million.
Mussolini.
That's fair. It's yeah.
Well, let's talk about Schindler's
Owen did
List.
awful things.
I've only seen Schindler's List once. I think I actually watched it in school. So I don't think I paid very much attention to it. But thoughts on Schindler's List?
I've
This is
seen
the
it
one-
exactly
this is-
twice.
That's the one where
And-
Liam
oh, I'm sorry.
Neeson and his kid. No, that's the one his daughter's kidnapped, right? Liam
Right.
Neeson's got to go. Okay.
He has a very special set of skills.
That's one where he kills the Nazis, right? Okay.
Oh my
No, that's
god.
the wolves. That's the one with the wolves.
My Jewish wife is gonna light me on fire when I get out of this one, guys. let's try and show a modicum of respect for Schindler's List. This is just it's such a hard movie. Like, I've only seen it twice, and just because it's like I don't really want to watch it. Like, you know, I watched it the first time because, you know, to see it, and it was like breathtaking. And then I think I saw it in school was like probably the second time, because I wouldn't have chosen to watch it otherwise. It's because I think we were talking before the show began. It is like what, like 3.5 hours or 3
Yeah.
hours.
It's over 3 hours, yeah.
It's very long, and it really is a powerful movie. I mean, the performances in it are great. I mean, it's, you know, we've been picking on like kind of the Spielberg quirks and like the things that he does. Some of those touches are in the movie, but they're definitely downplayed. And it's like, it's just the kind of movie you watch and you're exhausted. Like, you know, when it's done, you kind of just want to go like lay in a dark room and like not think about anything. But truly a great movie. And I think it's actually something of a testament to like Seinfeld, that no one has been able to successfully like mock that movie other than Seinfeld. Like, they did kind of a satirical
going on the dates. It's like you were making out through Schindler's List. That's
well,
not right.
what's funny is it's
Fucking
actually, there are
movie.
two things. There's that, but then there's another one where Seinfeld's parents, like, there's Elaine's boyfriend wants to take them around. He's just a guy that, like, when people come to New York, he loves to show them around. And like, and as the episode's ending, like, they have to get on the plane. And he's like, but we could have done so much more. This pen, I could have sold this pen. I could have, and it was just, again, it was only Seinfeld could have pulled off like kind of a satire, like, joke about Schindler's
They
List.
also did on the Clerks cartoon. That was the Flintstones. They're watching TV.
Yeah. But truly, it's like it's a fantastic movie. My not wanting to watch it has nothing to do with Spielberg or the quality of the movie. It's you know, it's purely the subject matter.
It's just emotionally draining.
Yeah.
It was interesting they shot in black and white as well. Or it's a black and white movie. It was an interesting choice.
Was it purely an artistic choice, or was it also like an MPAA choice?
I don't know.
I think it was an artistic choice.
Okay.
I mean, it does have one part with color. There's like a girl with like red on.
Yeah, the girl with the red dress, right? I just wasn't sure if, because it is so graphically violent and so terrible, if Spielberg, because, you know, we've seen other movies that do the same thing, where like Tarantino and Kill Bill turns that one scene all black and white because, you know, she can cut all those people apart as long as it's not, you know, blood red. I don't know whether the same I mean, I'm actually legitimately asking you guys if this is something you've heard. I always wondered if it was just a purely an artistic choice, or something he decided to do because, well, it gets around that thorny issue of like, I don't want my, you know, Holocaust epic to be NC-17 or whatever.
Yeah, I thought it was an artistic choice, so that, and I could entirely be wrong. I thought it was an artistic choice that he'd made.
Okay.
So that
I thought it was to help give it context. You know,
well, to help give it context too, and so that the visual of the little girl in the red dress would just be such a sort of striking moment, just to see the color red.
Right.
And I think the movie certainly, there comes a point very early on in the movie where you forget that it's in black and white. Like, it just doesn't register that it's in black and white, you know. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's just this girl in red. What? So I'd always heard that it was an artistic choice. I could be wrong, but
Right.
yeah. But yeah, sir. I mean, a very heavy movie.
It's a very definition
That's
of a heavy movie.
Pretty much the sentiment in the chat is everybody's like, yeah, I've seen it a time or two, but it's like kind of too much for me to watch very often, you know.
It's an important movie. But
I really want to watch it again. Actually,
Me too.
I haven't seen it in so many years, and it was on my Netflix for like months, and I didn't. And now, of course, it's gone. But now, because I can't, I remember like the overall movie, but I forget like specific scenes and stuff like that. And you know, I was just watching the Spielberg documentary thing, where they touching on it and stuff, and it brought some of it back because it's been so many years since I saw all of it stuff. But I mean, but I just mean what an undertaking. Because I mean, they go to the places where this happened, you know, Auschwitz or somewhere like that. One of those places. They are actually there. You know, I mean, it's a great thing because it's the ultimate sort of like acknowledgement stuff. It's like not only is this, you know, something that really happened, we're going to go to where it really happened and stuff like. But yeah, it's an important movie because we live in a world where a lot of people honestly don't know much about history, and sometimes a movie is what it takes to teach them this stuff. And that's
why,
very much needed.
That's why they were showing it. That's why they were showing it in my class. That's how I
and
saw it
it's an important thing that it got done at that time because you actually in 1993 you still had people that actually fucking lived through it. You know, which is another thing we'll bring up later for Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan is a good movie and stuff, but you can't wait. You can't do Saving Private Ryan now, really, because most
of those guys are
most
gone.
of those guys have passed on. So you know, he realized in like around 97, 98, if I'm going to do my big authentic World War II movie, the time to do it is now, so I can actually get people that were really there to help me on it. And I think it's very much the same thing with Schindler's List, because he had, you know, some of the people that had lived through it, or at least relatives of those people and stuff. And I think that, you know, adds so much more to it, makes that much more authentic and stuff.
Well, think of the final shot of Schindler's List, Cole. I mean, like that strikes at the heart of exactly what you're saying. Like it's the procession of the survivors and their children laying. It's either a rock or flower. I can't remember, but it's basically like paying homage to Oscar Schindler. Yeah.
All right, can I get a real talk?
Couldn't do that.
Can I get a real talk?
Real talk.
He's a little nervous.
Cole, welcome to fucking America. Look at this.
We got those.
We got those. Was more than you, Cole.
Although a party-sized bag would cost
have enough for
I think we could have. Couldn't we have waited to do an Orc Real Talk during like AI, artificial intelligence? I'm not sure this is the movie. We want to take an Orc break.
I'm sorry, guys.
Well, can you imagine like they go to Auschwitz and they build these sets? They build like concentration camp sets. Can you imagine somebody flying over in a plane and looking down and going, "Oh my God, what?
It's happening again."
Exactly, it's happening again.
Oh wow,
that'd be freaky, man. That'd be freaky.
But, in fact,
I forget a lot of these things.
Hasn't Spielberg since said like that doing Schindler's List so like affected his perception of the Nazis, which wasn't like he was a fan of them before, but like doing it like that he would never like do them the way he did them in like the Indiana Jones movies from before, because the Nazis they're sort of like, you know, hammy, goofy villains,
right?
And like that's why when he did,
and they've been like that in a lot of, you know, fiction. You know, it's like, oh, the Nazis are real, but we'll just treat them as if, you know, they were just some
right. And he was like, I'm not gonna do, like, I'll never do that again. He's like, if I even have them in a movie that I do, they wouldn't be portrayed that way. And so in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, for timeline purposes, it didn't matter because the Russians were the bad guys, but like it kind of made sense. And I mean, I think I understand his point. Not that I ever thought the Nazis were funny or should be treated as goofy villains, but
there's a shot I can remember from like one of the ones. It's probably the first one. It's probably Raiders, where he's filming and there's all these Nazis standing in a line, and they're like in a CKO or something like that. And he's telling them, and he says to the actors, "It's like you can like cross your fingers behind your back." Is he telling them? He's like, you know, and he's all lighthearted about it. It's like, I'm pretty sure that's probably not what he was doing on the set of Schindler's List when he's giving direction to the Nazis on how to act and stuff.
Well, I mean, Steven Spielberg has also done a lot as far as, you know, Jewish history and museums, and I know he started the Jewish Film Archive. That's one thing he did. I mean, it's something that's really important to him, and obviously, this was a really important film for him to make, you know, because of his heritage.
Yeah, I think he felt like sort of a lot of a responsibility, like he was in a position to do something about this and, you know, bring attention to it, and all that stuff. So it was really important to him.
And
Which
I
I can
think
understand.
he achieved, all of that. I think it brought a lot of attention to it.
Oh, absolutely. He definitely did.
No.
This was a huge movie. I mean, I know I went and saw it with my grandmother in the theater, my grandmother and my parents, and it was, very powerful. People were packing in. It's kind of like that. What was it, The Passion of the Christ?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like one of those movies where like this is a cultural thing. You have to go see it because it's a important cultural thing. Like Black Panther. Kidding, but
wow, too soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was too young and I didn't have any interest. I would have been like 10 years old and stuff. And I don't think my parents would have wanted to subject me to it. But
is this? And I'm just looking back at Spielberg, like the movies that you guys already covered. I mean, was this kind of like his first, like truly serious movie, or would that be like Empire of the Sun?
Color Purple, and then
Color Purple. That's true. Yeah.
Amistad also.
Well, Amistad comes after.
Yeah.
Oh, does it?
That's what I meant. I was trying to figure
Amistad's
out.
like 97.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was.
I was just trying to figure out. Like,
that was like during his lull, which is weird. He's only. I mean, we brought this up. I mean, he's been super active since the mid 70s to now. His only real lull was basically 4 years in the 90s, which he didn't do. He didn't have any releases in 94, 95, or 96. In 97, he did Lost World and Amistad.
I'm guessing Schindler's List took it out of him because it follows that. It's 93.
Because this is like a super productive guy, right? Because it's not even like he wasn't doing nothing there. Because I mean, as we'll talk about later, he was doing so many. He was attached to so many other projects. Like we said, we don't have time to talk about all the stuff he's attached to as a producer. I'll just very quickly say I'm another fan of him because of the of how he helped with some of the animation studios going on. Like he was a big driving force helping somebody like Don Bluth do some of his movies. That's why like the Fievel movie like American Tail got like some weight behind it and stuff. Obviously, he was the big driving force on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, even though he wasn't actually a director. But it was his clout. Even AD he had such clout that he was able to get like various people to lend their properties, not ask to be paid. He was like, can we borrow your properties for the sake of this movie? And they're like, oh, it's you, Spielberg. So yes, And some of the smaller scale things too. People, maybe somebody like Animaniacs or something like that in the 90s. Spielberg was all over that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool.
Which he's resurrecting on Hulu, by the way.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
What, Animaniacs?
Animaniacs is coming back on Hulu.
I don't. It's not.
Wait, this is a topic for maybe our show today, but yeah, this is something that was just announced over the past few months that's going to be coming back.
I don't know. That was just so of its time. It's hard to, put it in the context.
Exactly. That's kind of.
And so, if we're taking a brief segue, I did want to mention Sequest DSV because you're right. He didn't direct that, but that is something that he was heavily involved in creating, which is kind of like Star Trek for the oceans. Mm-hmm. And like Spielberg was behind it, and he got Roy Scheider to star in it. I was super into that
Jonathan
show.
Brandis was on that, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. And he would I remember he was so behind the show, like it got a lot of big ratings at first. It was like a huge big show on NBC, and then eventually it fell off a cliff. And
a lot of my friends watched it. When I was, this would have been my early teens. I didn't watch it because even back then I wasn't much of a TV person. But yeah, a lot of my friends followed that show.
It was a show that I very much liked, and it had a lot of Spielberg touches. And again, this is a movie show, so I won't go farther than that. But I did want to mention it because we're talking about Spielberg in the 90s, and particularly the early 90s. I actually think Sequest was 1993 when it first came out. So 93, like what did he sleep in 1993? I mean, all this time was like developing properties and filming movies. I mean,
and that was my point. Like he didn't have any releases in 94, 95, and 96 like that he directed, but it's not like it was like a lull, like he wasn't doing stuff because he was doing everything.
Right. Anyway. Well, let's move. Go ahead, Sting. Right.
We could probably do another show on just the stuff that he produced and had his hands in.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot of stuff during that period of time.
Well, let's move on and let's talk about the sequel to Jurassic Park, The Lost World.
I want to take the lead on this, Piz.
Go ahead.
Please.
I am a rabid defender for The Lost World.
I'm going to take it to you.
I like The Lost World. And sort of like when we were talking about Jurassic Park, we were talking about how it sort of takes the more cynical, dark aspects of the book and kind of weeds them out a little bit and makes it more of kind of like an inspirational, like awe-inspiring, nature-based type movie. I like the Lost World for its darker tendencies. Like Ian Malcolm, even though he still quips and makes one-liners and whatever, like he's clearly like a guy who's like, you know, he's frightened of these dinosaurs. He kind of is like this warning force. And I don't know. I think it's got a great cast of characters. It
Really?
takes a couple. It takes some concepts from the first book, like the way that it
Cole's
opens.
like-
The way that it opens is the way that Jurassic Park the book opens, if I remember correctly, where it's like babies or children are like getting bitten by lizards, and there's like a little girl who gets eaten, similar to how Hammond died in the book. And that little girl gets like bitten in the beginning of the Lost
She
World.
only gets beaten. Yeah, some rich family lands on a beach and she
Yeah.
gets attacked. Like,
But it's like that.
Cole, did you hack him because he likes the movie?
No, I thought I froze. I froze.
I thought
I
I
was having
froze
some
too.
trouble. I had some
also
trouble
enjoyed
last
it.
night or the other night when Jan and I did our show. So I just thought it was me. I just thought I cut out. But I'll just
So
say
did I.
I do not like the characters in this, and I certainly don't like the actors they use for a lot of them, like Vince fucking Vaughn. Ugh, hate that.
Wait, you don't
But yeah,
like
like
Jeff
just
Goldblum?
the big thing, like it's so split off from the book, it's ridiculous. Like as we said, they made a lot of changes in the original and the book, but they didn't take the main plot and just go sideways with it. In this, they did. In the movie, it's just like what? So Sarah Harding is on the island, and they lose contact with her. She's been dating Ian Malcolm, so he goes there, and that's how they find her. And then what happens is a whole bunch of weird redneck dinosaur hunters show up and start ripping the place up. That's bullshit, and I have no idea what happens. In the book, again, it's about how that happens. The same thing with Sarah and him going to supposedly, or it's not Sarah. See, it's not Sarah. She comes later. They go after the paleontologist, Divine, or whatever his name is, who's a really cool character who they completely basically eliminate for the purposes of this. Yeah, there's a young, brash paleontologist that goes to the island himself, and he goes, and anyway. So they eliminate one of the best characters from the book. But the other thing is, yeah, they had this cool continuation of the plot from Jurassic Park where Dodgson and some guys like mercenaries that he hired are going to go there. It's like, okay, Isla Nublar was a fuck up, but here's another island with stuff. And nobody's watching this island, so we can go, we can steal stuff. And it's about how those two groups eventually come together with the dinosaurs all caught in the middle. And that's completely, thrown out. Dodgson's not in the movie. There's nothing to do with Biosyn. It's just a bunch of redneck dinosaur hunters driving around in jeeps going, yeehaw, shooting at the dinosaurs. Oh my God, I hate it. And, it gets cheesier and cheesier as it goes until we have the T-Rex stomping around in like downtown San Francisco and people doing, oh, Godzilla references and stuff that just make me want to puke. Like, even I was talking to Jay, it's true. Like back in the 90s when I was like younger and a teenager stuff, I saw all sorts of movies in theaters that were really stupid at the time. But I was completely satisfied with. My teenage brain was fine with it. Like Armageddon. I went and saw Armageddon. I was completely satisfied when I saw Armageddon as a kid in 1998. But in 1997, as a kid, even younger than that, seeing Jurassic Park: The Lost World, I wanted to stand up and I just wanted to punch somebody. I was so mad. I stood in a huge line for that movie. Ryan was with me. I stood in a huge line that stretched all the way outside and stuff. It was a big, crazy, rowdy theater atmosphere. It was great. And then the movie came on, and it was just like a gong show. Man,
why do you hate Jeff Goldblum now too, Cole?
I don't.
Wanting to punch
He
someone
He doesn't do much in the movie though, even though he's the star. He's kind of
No, he really doesn't.
He's kind of invisible in the movie, even though he's the star. It's like he has more personnel in the first movie. He's in it for like 10 minutes. Yeah. And then I can't believe you didn't mention the gymnastics.
Well, yeah, I mean,
beating up the Raptors.
I knew
He's like
Rambo was going to hate the
adopted
gymnastics.
his
scene.
adopted
Yes,
daughter. All she does is whine, and
Fucking
then once
swinging
it's,
like his Gymkhana. Just fucking going Gymkhana on Raptors.
yeah, she's taking on Raptors with her. Yeah,
For all your
Malcolm-
Gymkhana
You
fans.
You got a Jim Cotter reference in here, guys.
Malcolm is like he's like the lead driver of the third act. Like he's like out there running around San Diego with Julianne Moore to like head off the dinosaurs.
the third act is like
Well, Julian
the worst
Moore's
thing
doing
ever.
the driving. He's kind of just sitting there in the passenger seat doing nothing. But
It's always
He's
awesome.
the-
Providing
well,
hilarious
he-
commentary.
There's nothing to defend about the third act. They're running around San Francisco with a T-Rex.
I have fun with the third act as a dumb
I like that.
Godzilla type.
Yeah.
I thought that
but
was great. Like putting
That's the
dinosaurs on
only
the
part
main
I
line,
liked.
think that's great.
The third act's the best part of it.
That's the only part I like was because I like.
To me, it gets
stuff,
worse
but
as it goes, and by the time it ends, it's To me, it gets worse and worse and worse.
I mean, what would you do if a T-Rex was outside your house? Pretty fucked up, wouldn't it?
Oh my God.
And then there's like the shot of like the Japanese guys running from the T-Rex because like, oh, it's like Godzilla.
Closer to one.
The one scene that they kind of do decently is the whole trailer going over thing. That's pretty much like in the book, and they do a pretty good job of it. But that cannot save the movie for me by any stretch of the imagination. Because you were awful, I said, but I just mean I can accept changes for the book, but they're just completely changed the main action of the movie. Instead of it being Dodgson and Biosin guys in there that have some connection to the first book, it's just a bunch of random dinosaur hunters. They're like, yeah, let's go hunt these things.
Well, they weren't. Well, hold on, they weren't random dinosaur hunters. They were
by
InGen.
InGen because the other guy Hammond had been kicked out of InGen and he no longer controlled the company. He was trying to save the dinosaurs.
By random, I mean completely made up for the purposes of a film.
Well, yeah. But the Vince Vaughn thing, I can't defend Vince Vaughn. That was horrible. And the gymnastics scene was stupid, too. But other than that, I like it. I like the movie.
I liked Vince Vaughn.
I hate Vince Vaughn.
I'm not a fan.
Well, I wish Jeff Goldblum was like more worthwhile. His jokes weren't even that funny in the movie.
He's more sardonic in this one. Like he's kind of like damaged goods.
He has like one good line at the very beginning where Harding's like taking pictures and he goes, "Yeah, that's how it starts. Ooh and ah." But then there's running and screaming. That's fine. That's a good line. Okay, but not much.
And it's a line that only Jeff Goldblum could do the way that he does too.
Yeah, I still like Jeff Goldblum.
In the first film, he was so confident and cocky, and in this movie, he's got the PTSD. He's scared. He's nervous.
Yeah,
he just wants to
I understand that.
Like,
I understand that.
Why do you always
again, they do that in the book, but
that doesn't mean I want to see it. It wasn't as fun. It wasn't like the character was shittier because of that. They made the character shittier.
I like Levine or however his name is, and he doesn't even exist in the movie. Like, there's actually a point to them being there. Like, they're up in the tree thing. Levine's talking to... There's two kids. What they do is they combine his kids, by the way. Basically what it is he has a daughter, and she has a little boy who's a friend who's black. And they're just like, why don't we just combine them into one kid, literally, a black girl. Okay, fine, that's, I guess. But anyway, in the other, there's two kids. And
was Eddie more than one character? Or was he just one guy?
I'm pretty sure he was just one guy. Yeah, Eddie's the poor schmuck that tried his best. Like, he was fine in the movie. I didn't have a problem with him. And like I said, that scene is fine. You know, the whole thing where Eddie's trying to save them with the cables and stuff like that. That scene is, to me, the most defensible thing in the movie. But the rest,
and I like the lead hunter tracker guy.
I hate him. Oh, I hate him. He's just like
He detests the rest of the hunters because they're barbarians. He's like by the code type. I don't know. He's
don't like him. Stupid. And I've seen like the extended scene too, where he's like in San Jose and he gets into like a confrontation with some like jackass tourist and stuff, just so they can set up that he's such an honorable guy and stuff. He looks like a what's his name? Short Patrick Stewart.
That's Pete Postwaite. Is that his name?
No idea
actor,
who
I think.
Yeah, he was in Alien 3. So
I don't know.
I can't tell everybody's bald.
Like,
I can't tell them apart.
There you go.
For my money,
Alien 3 slam right in the middle of that. I like it. That's cool.
If you were gonna do a sequel to Jurassic Park, like the wonder and the surprise and the awe is all over. Like you have to find a new angle. And
a nice dark angle is already explored in the book. And as you said, I think it'd be great. I think James Cameron should have done the second one, and then they could have made it more close to the book, and it would have been dark and cool.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you're right. The wonder, the surprise, that's over. It's now something more sinister. Yeah. But you don't get enough of that. Like them going through the InGen labs and finding about how their failed process and how the dinosaurs kept dying. Because this whole island was a secret. It was Site B. The whole point is, the InGen was fine to show us Italy Nublar, but this was the dirty secret. This is where they did all the experiments that led to all this death and stuff that was off the books where workers and stuff died well beforehand. And none of that really gets dug into in the movie, which is really upsetting. Like, to me, I like kind of the mystery, digging and uncovering evidence stuff. But this movie just wanted to be loud start to finish.
It was an adventure. It was like an adventure is what it was. I agree with you. I actually think that it would have been better for that. But I agree. I understand why they made because if you think about the second book is nowhere near as good as the first book. I'll say that.
I think it's really close, honestly. I was shocked by how good it was, considering it was a book he never wanted to write. You know, he just had all this pressure. He'd never written a sequel before, and they're like, "You gotta do a sequel to this." I was surprised because you think he could half-ass it. I was really surprised how well it turns out.
Maybe I need to reread it, but I just remember being way more like I remember being bored a lot of the time reading. Like I had to skip past huge sections of that book. But
No,
again,
I
read it a long time ago.
With Biosyn and Dodgson and all that stuff. Like it felt like a great continuation.
Yeah. In any case, I liked it. I thought it was
50-50. I agree. It could have been better. It sounds like, hey, I would go for the James Cameron book adaptation. Sure, why not? Sounds great. But I enjoyed what it is for what it is, I guess.
I thought it was
it's just too schmaltzy for me.
I thought it was just a fairly boring film, other than the ledge scene and the ending. Not much happened other than those for me.
So, Spielberg directed Lost World, right?
Yep.
Yeah. He doesn't usually direct sequels.
He did not direct the third one.
No,
that was Joe Johnson.
Is that really? Was that the one with all the raptors like in the cornfields and stuff?
Dude,
no, that's the second one.
No, that was the second one.
Okay.
I liked the third one more.
I think I could like the third one more.
Well, I like the third one 10 times more.
Here's how I can defend the third one.
No!
The third one is like an hour shorter than the others.
Yeah.
The third one just gets itself over with.
The third one is like Jurassic Park, the TV series. There's no reason for that movie to even exist. It's just
I agree with that completely. I wish it didn't, but
neither does the second movie.
But
the second movie doesn't exist either.
The third one isn't even a straight-to-TV movie compared to the second one. Have you lost your fucking minds? Are you serious?
I don't like the third one. I'm just saying it's not nearly as long.
Even the way it's filmed, it looks like it's like all on a set indoors.
Yeah. It looked fine to me. It looked like the second one.
And the other thing is, the third one is just some made-up shit. There's no book for it to pervert. There's no third Jurassic Park book where I'm watching this book get perverted.
I think it goes at a faster pace. I like Sam Neill. He actually does stuff. I like the pterodactyl stuff. I like the new dinosaur, not just the T-Rex again. It's 80 minutes long. It's not fucking 3 hours long.
It's short. It's the main reason I can defend it. It's like
that's what it feels like.
It just gets in.
A movie to the book.
I just don't know what the story is. Like the story is like just this random kid.
It's a rescue mission.
Like that's it.
That's the story. It's a rescue mission. What's the story of the second movie? We gotta steal these dinosaurs and steal the shit.
It's about harnessing nature. It's like the mistake in trying to do that.
The first one did that.
First one did that. They steal the dinosaurs to open up the Disney park in fucking San Diego. And Vince Vaughn doing Vince Vaughn. This is story.
Yeah. I mean, I do not hate The Lost World, but I definitely dislike it strongly. I can't help it.
I can't compare movies to books, though. You have a 500 to 800 page book. You can't sum that up in a 90-page script.
Right.
I can't watch because I don't
every
read,
time.
So.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can
I know, but as I said, Jurassic Park proves you can do a good job of it, and I just didn't think they did it again.
Well, because Jurassic Park essentially changes the story. Like they use the concept and the premise, and they say this book is fantastic. It can't be this in its form. Can't be a movie. So here's what we're going to do instead.
They move things in and out and eliminate things and shorten things and stuff, but the story is still the same. Whereas in this one, the story is not the same. In this one, they don't have Biosyn or Dodgson and stuff. They have this whole thing about InGen hiring hunters, like you guys said. Like that is changing the story. Jurassic Park is still the same story.
I don't think
it's about how everything goes wrong because Nedry goes to steal stuff, shuts the park down, all hell breaks loose. That is the story. So I don't know. To me, there's a difference when you talk about changing.
Go off on like the differences between the movies and the books. I'm just saying like the adaptation of the first movie I thought was very solid, and it seemed to me like because of the way the second book worked, like this can't even be a sequel really. This has to be a sequel to the movie, not the book. And so when you think about like but I mean, it's all character in the first movie, he's barely in it. He's in it for like a 1 minute scene.
He's barely in this.
You were just saying before how he's like a major character, and there's all this history about the companies and stuff.
Yeah, there's a whole chapter that talks about it. I don't know if that makes him a major character, but they do explain, who he is. They explain who he is, where in the movie he just shows up and we're not sure who he is. But I'm just saying, they could have expanded all that.
Dotson. We got Dotson here.
But I'm just saying, they've done that in movies before. It has nothing to do with books. You can have a sequel that has a fairly minor character and then make them bigger in the sequel. That happens all the time in movies.
Yeah,
where it's just like, oh, and they give you the backstory, and you're like, oh, okay, so and you understand why. So I don't see how that's problematic.
I think they went with Malcolm as the main character, just Goldblum. He was such a, I don't know. I guess maybe they were riding on his popularity to carry the film.
No, I got no problem with that. Again, Malcolm is in the book. He's more or less the main. There's not exactly a one main character, but he's close to it. So like, I don't know. I'm not criticizing Malcolm being in there at all.
Cole, isn't there like another lead in the second book? Doesn't like Malcolm have like a friend? Is it Levine?
Levine. That's what I said. Levine. And they completely eliminate him from the movie, which I think sucks because I think he's a really interesting character.
Or was she a great big fat person?
Avril Lavigne? Are we talking about Avril Lavigne here?
Oh my god!
Because as I said, it's true. Yeah, and as Mike said, you have to make changes and adaptations and stuff like that. But it seems sad to me that a major character, is actually one of the strengths, is completely eliminated for the adaptation. It's just like, oh, let's just make it about Sarah Harding. He's there because of his girlfriend and stuff. And she's really dumb, I guess, is the other thing in the movie. She's really stupid. She's a person that's like done all this stuff out in Africa, and she knows how to behave around predators and stuff. And now she's just running right up into dinosaurs' faces, snapping pictures of them. Like, she's really dumb, which is upsetting. That her mathematician boyfriend is like has more common sense than she does, even though she's the one that's been around dangerous animals for most of her professional life. But anyway, we can't stay on this forever. But I'm just gonna say, Jurassic Park was a really important movie in my life. Jurassic Park: The Lost World was going to be a really important movie, and it was a huge letdown. And ever since, it's just been a disappointment.
Well, let's move on.
We really need to dissect this, guys. Come on, let's get into it.
I've dissected plenty enough.
No.
I'm sure people have their fill of my view of it.
Yeah, let's move on and let's talk about Amistad. Thoughts on Amistad?
Never saw it.
Didn't see it.
I didn't see that one.
This is his quiet period. Didn't Jay, you watch it for the purposes of the show?
I watched some of it for the show.
What you
was it boring?
I didn't watch it all. I just didn't get around to it. It's kind of the same way I feel about Schindler's List. It's just kind of hard stuff to watch. I don't know. I'm not really in the mood to be like depressed watching a movie lately. I kind of watch movies to like.
It's like a slave ship, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The part of what I saw was not bad at all. Well directed.
I'm sure it's well made, but I do not seek out depression.
Yeah.
That's not me.
I saw Amistad in school. Like that was the only time I ever saw it, a long time ago. And it was, like you say, it was good, competently made. And I remember, there was all that Oscar buzz around it, but it wasn't something that I ever revisited because, again, it was like that dark material, and I try not to seek that out if I don't have to. I mean, even in like the fiction world, like The Mist, I've never watched The Mist again after the first time. I don't really have any desire to relive that experience. So this is kind of the same thing.
That ending though. Ooh.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, it's like I'm gonna watch the whole movie for that.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
The ending was great, but it rendered it unwatchable for me.
Right. Again, I actually appreciated that when you're taking the story from a book and putting it on screen, that perhaps you need to change some things for that medium. That's fine. And that ending is great. It's very powerful, but it sort of makes it that I really have no desire to do that again. Yeah.
I don't particularly like the story or the movie, so
I wound up turning off Amistad and watching Never Too Young to Die again.
But Amistad, I don't even remember like existing. Like the first time I knew Amistad existed was like what somebody said was like when they do a joke about Amistad 2 in Scary Movie.
Yeah.
I was like, Amistad 2, that obviously means there was an Amistad 1. Like I hadn't heard of it for like I didn't know it existed.
In the first scary movie, he goes, one of the Wayans brothers, he goes up on the front of the boat like Titanic, and he goes, "I'm the king of the world!" And the guy whips him, and he goes, "Get back to work," and he goes, "I'm a stud too."
Do you guys remember on a Chappelle show, he was doing, it was like outtakes from Roots?
Yeah.
Yes, I
That
do
was some
remember
good
that.
stuff, man. God, Dave Chappelle's so funny. He was getting whipped, and he actually hit him one time. He's like, "God damn!"
The best, anything with race, the best on that show, sidetrack, but we have to go down this road. I'm sorry, Cole. But as when he's the blind
I like
KKK
it,
leader. Oh, so good.
That's like the first episode.
The Klan leader.
Yeah. I like his accent. He's like, the Negro is an abomination, or something like that.
And then the white guy's narrating it, and it's like, when we asked him why he left her after all these years, it was because she was a lover. I'm not gonna drop the M-bomb, but yeah.
Well, let's move on to Saving Private Ryan. Let's move away from one heavy movie and into another heavy movie, and let's talk about Saving Private Ryan.
Heavy period.
Yes, this was Spielberg's heavy period.
Heavy flow.
Jeez.
Heavy flow for sure.
Vin Diesel's best performance. I mean, Fast and the Furious 1 is a classic, but let's be real here.
All right, rank the Fast movies.
One.
I recommend Find Me Guilty. That's, to me, Vin Diesel's best performance.
That is a good movie.
Yeah, I would say The Iron Giant.
That's a good one, too.
Tokyo Drift is the best Fast movie. I'm sorry.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, that's the outlier, Tokyo Drift. Isn't that the one that has like nothing to do with any of the others? Like, that's the different cast.
Well,
think so.
it
That's a
originally
prequel.
didn't have anything to do with any of the others, and then they tied
they
it back into
retconned the way
everything.
in.
Yeah.
No, Cole, and you laughed at me for linking you a clip one time, but that has Fast and the Furious has one of the greatest quotes of all time. I live my life 1/4 mile at a time, and for everything else,
Come on, Orc.
I'm free.
The pacifier. Come on, the
Well,
pacifier.
let's not go into the Fast and the Furious universe, or this is going to turn into like a 12, 14-hour show.
James
So let's go-
Bond.
So let's go into the pacifier universe.
The pacifier universe.
This
Let's
is
go.
why I've always got NOS on my vehicle. Because you never know when you got to turn it up a notch. You know.
Exactly.
Saving Private Ryan, though.
Saving Private Ryan.
That happened.
That movie happened in 1998. There was a big World War II, thing happened in 1998. Not only did that,
Like I said, I think it was some people realizing that these vets weren't going to be around much longer.
right.
I think it was because it was coming up on the 80th anniversary of the
Okay.
is really
Okay.
what it was.
Okay. Because we had Saving Private Ryan. We also had the Thin Red
I mean,
Line.
like
Both of them were
50th.
big.
We
You
were
know,
so, was that? Oh, that's different. Was
we
that
had-
Vietnam?
We were soldiers. That was Vietnam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
But
That's a very underrated movie, by the way. A lot of
Yes.
people haven't seen it.
I
So
like
good.
that movie.
We were sold.
Melon
We
stuff.
knew what women wanted.
But I really like Saving Private Ryan. I prefer the Thin Red Line, but
Me too.
Any
the
sort
opening-
of like men on a mission movie, I think, usually has my interest.
But like the first 45 minutes are like the best war movie footage I've ever seen.
very
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Very,
it's
Yeah,
just
so authentic.
in there. It's amazing.
Mhm.
The rest of it, not so much. I mean, Matt Damon doesn't really do much for me. I don't give a shit about Private Ryan. Fuck him.
I don't mind Matt Damon.
I was so
what the story was
pissed off.
inspired by. But Tom Hanks, again, knockout performance.
Mhm.
Great. First 45 minutes, awesome. Sizemore and Diesel in there, provide some good backup. I think Barry Pepper's in there as well.
Barry Pepper.
Yes,
Yes, he is. He's the
You know,
sniper.
He's badass.
Giovanni Ribisi.
I hate
Good
him
characters,
so
some good
much.
moments. But, movie's kind of with me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mediocre recommendation, you know.
Yeah, I got no problem with Damon,
it's-
but I don't like that. My main problem with it is I don't like that unit. I don't find them likable. I don't root for them. I don't like them.
You're racist.
Yes.
This is it's probably my second favorite Spielberg movie. Really.
Well, it's not like I wanted the Germans to murder them all. That's not what I mean. I just mean
you-
I would have liked to have seen some other.
Did
unit.
you see it in the theater, Jay?
I did. I saw it a few times in the theater.
How
I
many
wish
do
I
you
saw it.
remember?
I'd like to see it.
Weren't there reports of and maybe this was at some of the initial screenings, but like some of the vets who attended the movie like had to leave, or maybe they didn't finish watching like during the opening D-Day scene.
They're having
Like
flashbacks.
whatever, like what Spielberg produced was just so viscerally like.
I did hear that as a matter of
reminded
fact.
them.
Yeah, I did hear that as a matter of fact. Yeah.
And that led to the Band of Brothers show.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think did he have a hand in that producing or something?
Yeah.
And
he was
Medal of
like
Honor video game.
Just like that's right. That's an underrated game too, by the way. That's an awesome game.
Medal of Honor.
Thanks Spielberg for Black Ops, because without Medal of Honor, there would be no Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Well, I like Medal of Honor, by the way. There you go, Orc. I never cared about Call of Duty, but I liked Medal of Honor back in the day. Wonderful sound effects on the PS1.
Spielberg was behind both Band of Brothers as well as the Pacific. He kind of was like a producer, partnered with HBO to make all that stuff. And especially after Band of Brothers was the massive, massive success that it was like, okay, how do we make a movie about the Pacific War? And so that's when they kind of landed on Band of Brothers is like an actual book by like one guy, whereas the Pacific, I think, is a few different books, 2 or 3 books, and they kind of stitch some things together there. But yeah, definitely Saving Private Ryan is definitely what kind of launched that like World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make like every other movie be about World War II or show or whatever.
Band of Brothers in the Pacific also, and it's just chock full of actors that are big now. That were not at the time, but are huge now.
Yeah,
I can't think of any right off, but actors and actresses.
Damian Lewis. He played Winters from Band of Brothers. He's on that Showtime show now. He was on the other Showtime show, Homeland. He was ironically, he's sort of like the paragon of American virtue in Band of Brothers. And then on Homeland, he's like an American traitor converted to Al Qaeda. But yeah, Damian Lewis. I mean, God, like you say, they just watch it, and like every face is a name you recognize from like 10 things.
Mm-hmm. Both great miniseries too. I recommend those.
Yeah, but Saving Private Ryan though, I mean, even just that cast, we were just rattling off all those names. I mean, look at the star power in that movie. And obviously at this point it's a Spielberg movie, so he can command that. But it's just worth noting that at the time, many of those guys weren't huge. I mean, again, Vin Diesel. Who the hell's Vin Diesel? You know,
that was Matt Damon.
it was Matt Damon. You know, he'd been in Dogma or whatever. Had Dogma come out yet?
No.
Dogma came out the same year, I think.
Following year, 99.
99.
Oh, this was 98. I'm sorry. Yeah. But like, definitely, like, there's a lot of famous, because even I think the commanding officer is some guy that we know, but I can't think of his name.
I think Damon became pretty big because of
Good Will Hunting. I think
Good Will Hunting. Yeah.
That was 97.
That was 97. So this is right around where his star is really rising.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, this is another movie. He's done this a few times where instead of one of the reasons they were able to do the budget they did was because Spielberg didn't actually like take a salary for it, and he convinced Hanks to do the same thing, where they didn't, have like money up front. They would just, if the movie is successful, we'll make money off it that way. But if the movie isn't successful, we don't make money. He said that's how I work. He's like, I don't really work with a lot of big stars, but that's how I expect them to work if they're going to work with me, which is something pretty cool about Spielberg. Because a lot of these big stars come in, they're like, well, regardless of how this movie does, I expect my $20 million salary. Spielberg says, then you're not working with me. And the same thing happened later on when he was with Tom Cruise for Minority Report, which we'll get to. And he said Tom Cruise was totally on board to do that.
Wow.
That's why Spielberg and I will not work together anytime soon.
Wait, who?
It's not going to happen.
He wants me to work for Scale? Fuck that. I want a sausage factory, son.
Yeah.
But the movie itself, I'm just trying to remember. It's been a long time since I've seen like a lot of it over the years. It's a long time since I saw it start to finish. It opens with landing on D-Day,
it's probably the best part of the movie
stuff, and then trying to remember what happened. So Hanks's unit winds up at like this base camp. And at the base camp, they've received information that Ryan had like 3 or 4 brothers that all got killed. And they're saying this would be like a really bad thing for morale, I guess, if they all die. And if we have to send that mother like another death certificate or whatever. Yeah. And they say, we need to put a unit together that will go and find this guy. Last intelligence is he was in blah, blah, blah. And and then they tell Tom Hanks to go. That's what happens, right?
Right.
Basically, yeah.
And then they all die.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Most of them
And
died.
the movie's good
One
up
died.
until that point.
Except for Matt Damon. Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
no, it isn't Matt. One other guy survived. Like, there's one other dude.
Edward,
What's his name?
Edward.
Ed Burns.
Ed Burns survives. Ed Burns is the
Ed
only one who
Burns.
speaks it.
Yeah. I forgot he was in the
I
movie.
can't remember. I mean, it is a really good scene, towards the end when they're in like this destroyed village, and they know the Germans are coming, and they have to like repel the attack, and that's how most of them die. I mean, that is really well filmed. I mean, there's things about it that stick out that I don't like. I don't like the sniper and his weird OCD blabbing about Bible verses. I find
Jared Pepper, man, he's awesome.
I find the
Yeah, I'll say
whole
that's, like, one of my
stabbing
favorite
scene
characters.
really
Me too.
odd and uncomfortable. I mean, it's supposed to be uncomfortable because it's supposed to show you, this is war and this is what death is up close. But it's just weird. His friend just sort of watches him get stabbed and runs and cowers in the doorway. I mean, I get it. They're trying to bring us the reality of it. It's not all heroes, good guys, bad guys.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It doesn't work for me. It just feels awkward and off-putting.
Jay. Dewey Crow watches him get stabbed and doesn't do anything about it. Jeremy Davies is the actor. Yeah, he's the actor you're referring to who just watches Chandler's roommate from Friends get stabbed in a very agonizing fashion and killed.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't have all that baggage when I watched it. Otherwise, it would really affect me.
Was this a thing? Like, is this based on a true story at all? Like, did they go and save siblings?
Well, it's
loosely based on
like a
loosely.
policy. I don't know if it ever worked out.
There was not. So I don't think there was ever an actual unit that was sent out to get this guy, but there was, and I'd have to look it up, but there was an actual, I think it was only 3 brothers, but there were like a series of brothers that, like, when they were kind of like looking at casualties, they saw like that, 2 of the letters came in, and I think they were able to just get the guy. I'm not even sure if they ever did officially recall him. Or maybe they like just moved him to desk duty or something.
Unofficial policy they supposedly adapted that I have no idea if it actually ever worked or not. Which was if enough members of a family died, do what you can to get them. But I don't know if, as you said, there was ever anything confirmed about them really bringing in somebody in that way.
There is a specific, because I forget the guy's name, but there is a specific, and it was World War II that this happened. But like I said, there was no special unit sent to retrieve the guy or anything. But there just was a group of brothers that, like, all of them but one died, and they brought the other one back. I think they just pulled him back from the line, or maybe he was like down in Italy. There was something like that, or like one of the brothers was like in Italy, and they just kind of held him back, and that's how he survived. Well, if only I had some super-powered computer in front of me to know what the story is.
Well, closing thoughts on Saving Private Ryan?
Good but flawed. Excellent. Up until they get the memo to go get Ryan, it's good. After that, it goes downhill for me. But definitely check it out just for the opening. It's great.
I don't so much like the characters, but the presentation is amazing. It's like it has to be like top 5 when it comes to like capturing war in a war movie and stuff. As I say, some of these movies are always tied up with other ones. That's not fair because it has nothing to do with it. But it'll always inexorably be tied up to me with Thin Red Line, which is the one I prefer. But I mean, I'm glad both exist. They both are different movies telling different stories about different stuff, and it's good they both exist. But if I take one, it's Thin Red Line.
I guess I just, it's not a bad movie. I just prefer other ones like Hamburger Hill or Full Metal Jacket or Casualties of War or something if I'm going to a war film.
Mm.
So it's not the one I go to for a war movie, but it's not a bad movie. The Longest Day, I haven't seen that one.
Really?
It's long.
Well,
So the Nyland brothers from Tonawanda, New York, there were 4 of them, and 3 were reported dead. And so Fritz Nyland was sent back home, but it actually turned out that one of his brothers wasn't dead and was in a Japanese POW camp. And I guess he made it out of there. But that's kind of the background of that story.
Oh yeah, and since I love Empire of the Sun so much, I can't even say it's like my favorite Spielberg war movie or World War II movie because I love Empire of the Sun. Even though that's a different kind of war movie. This is a war movie that's about soldiers, and there's different sorts of war movies. And the ones you think of first, the ones about the soldiers fighting the war, but then of course there's ones about there are people just affected by it, just more like what Empire of the Sun is. But yeah.
Well, let's move on and let's talk about.
Hey, wait! Orc moment of the movie. Orc movie moment. Another powerful moment where the dog tag scene. Do you remember that? Did anyone bring that up?
No.
Where someone's counting dog tags and it's obviously dead soldiers and it's like they're laughing about it, and then there's like other people who knew them from another platoon. You guys remember that scene?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah.
No.
I don't remember that scene for some reason.
I don't.
I don't.
I seem to vaguely remember seeing something like that.
Yep. All right, well, that wraps it up.
A lot of movies have dog tag scenes, I guess. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
I remember the dog tag scene in Hard Target where there's an arrow through it and they're looking at it and then Van Damme does his ass kick. I remember that dog tag scene, but no, I don't remember the dog tag scene from Saving Private Ryan.
And how does it kick so high in those jeans, right? Oh,
see, that's what it needed. It needed Van Damme and his mullet.
There
you go.
That mullet was so powerful. It was like Samson. You cut that mullet off and all his power's gone.
It's Chuck Norris and his mustache.
That's right.
There you go. Let's talk about AI, artificial intelligence. Any big fans of AI here?
It's Stanley Kubrick is supposed to do it, right?
Right.
That was a little story.
Yeah, he died and Spielberg took over.
Kind of an homage to him, I think, or a dedication to him.
And Spielberg always pointed out, like, it was, this is like, what, like 80% him. He wants people to think more of it as a Kubrick film than his. He thinks it's like 80% Kubrick and stuff like that. Like he was just taking over because he was gone. So, but yeah. So this was a movie a lot of people know was really it's one of those ones that really split people. It didn't do so well, and nowadays, like within like the last 10 years or so, a lot of people have revisited and said it's actually a brilliant film and misunderstood and stuff like that. For a plug for this is another show that Jay and I did. So if people want to check that out, Jay and I discuss it at length. AI, our thoughts on that and that angle and stuff.
I remember I saw it in the theater, and I remember just being kind of underwhelmed by it. Visually, I recall it being phenomenal, but I don't know. It didn't do the trick for me. I only saw it once. I saw it in the theater.
Kubrick and Spielberg. A movie together type thing.
Right.
Yeah, the expectations for me
are
through the roof, just because of who's involved. So yeah, I mean, I guess being let down was just, I should have expected it, but I kind of felt like the movie was, I can't say I didn't like it, but I watched it once and I have no desire to revisit it. I just found it kind of boring. It did nothing for me. I was just very disappointed. It did not. Maybe my expectations were too high. I don't know, but I love both directors, so I expected. This is the guy who did Jurassic Park and the guy that did The Shining and various other films that I've enjoyed. Not just the ones with the action and the horrific elements, but these are two very talented filmmakers, and I didn't get what I was wanting, I guess. But maybe that's me.
Well, if he said he wanted to make a Kubrick film, I would not have known that unless he told me. So I never really felt that when I watched it.
A lot of people, that's a thing. That's why Spielberg feels the need to, like, say that, because most people are like, well, this more or less feels like your work. And the big thing is a lot of people will skip ahead, is a lot of people have a lot of trouble with the ending. It's like it had an ending point, but then it has sort of an extended part where it goes on. And a lot of people say, and that's, there's that Spielberg sentimentality for you, And Spielberg, to this day, is adamant that that was not his ending and that was all Kubrick. And that was Kubrick who was very much wanted, and a lot of people go back and forth on whether they believe that or not. He said that he actually did, he said the darker stuff was more his, and the more sentimental stuff was absolutely Kubrick's. Is his position on it to this day, which doesn't sound right, but I mean, I don't know why he would lie either, so I don't know.
Anybody else thoughts on it?
No one has thoughts on this? I can keep going, I guess, if no one has any thoughts.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on it?
I saw it in the theater when I was like 11, and I was like, "This is the saddest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life." And I just remember walking out with the like jumbo bucket of popcorn, and like I was getting a refill of soda. And I'm just like,
You must not have seen Bicentennial Man, because that's truly depressing.
That's a better movie. That's a better movie.
I've still never seen
We're
that.
going from like Truman Show or Ed TV to this movie, Artificial Intelligence. I was like, oh my god, I can't.
This is when Haley Joel Osment was starring in movies.
Yeah. He's a big part of the reason I don't like it too.
Yep.
I mean, it's a hard role to play because he's not a real boy. It's all about not being a real boy and wanting to be a real boy and going back and forth between being like really awkward emotionally and so. I mean, I get it, but yeah, as you said, he mostly just annoys me throughout the movie. Although I don't know, it's a really hard role to play when you think about who he is and what his character is supposed to be. I sympathize, but I do find him kind of just annoying.
Yeah.
It's like I know I've seen the film, but it's hard to remember what the hell happened.
Yeah,
What's funny is not a lot happens given how long it is. Like, in sort of a long amount of time, not that much happens.
Isn't he like a replacement child or something for a family?
Their
robot?
Their kid is sick, so they get this robot that is going to replace him, but the kid gets better. And the kid's an asshole, huge asshole, and basically frames Haley Joel Osment for something, and they like throw him out in the garbage.
And then they just toss him leave him in the woods. They literally drive him out to the country and leave him in the woods. And it's weird too because it's also supposed to be like a trial version. The whole point is he's like a prototype for like this line of kids. The whole idea is the company's going to make these awesome like kid robots for couples that can't have kids. And you have like this couple, at least one of them works for the company, and one of their kids has some disease. He's like in a weird coma or something like that. And they're like, here's the prototype. You can like test it. You can do a test run of it and stuff. And he does get integrated in the family, and they like him very much. And as Jay said, the kid out of nowhere recovers and comes back and completely resents having this robot replacement, as you would expect. But he's really, really mean about it and manipulative. He's like an evil genius bastard. Anyway, and it leads to the mother, like, why can't they just give him back to the company? I don't know, but instead she drives him out and leaves him in the wilderness, and that's how it goes. And he meets a prostitute robot played by Jude Law, who just has like weird, prostitute programming. So everything he sees through the world is sex. Like he doesn't really understand anything else except sex, which I get is kind of funny. It's kind of funny that like his guardian in the world is just this idiot that doesn't know anything except like dicks and vaginas and stuff. But I don't know. It's weird because it has good effects, but it doesn't come together showing me what this future world looks like. It feels like it just borrows bits and pieces from different movies and sticks them together. Like, I really hate the part where when they get caught by, like, these people that put them in, like, a robot carnival where they get bashed up, which, by the way, is completely stealing from Astro Boy. In fact, the whole plot almost pretty much steals from Astro Boy when you think about it. You have an artificial boy who replaces a dead son or missing son and then gets kicked out for being too robot-like. I mean, that was all in Astro Boy back in the goddamn 50s. But anyway, that aside, so they get captured by this thing. And the guys are on like these weird, like futuristic flying jet ski things, and they're like red and blue, and it looks like Tron. Like, there's no unifying look to this future. Like, it just feels like they just took bits and pieces from other futuristic movies. Like, there's some Blade Runner, and there's some, Tron, and and they just sort of stuck it together. So the effects are great and look good, but I just don't really buy the world exactly. I don't know.
Just seems like a really forgettable movie.
It is.
And it's way too long for what happens. Like, if you summarize the movie for somebody and you say what happens, they'd be shocked that it took like well over 2 hours to tell it. Because some scenes just sort of go on too long and drag and stuff. And then again, the ending is just also tacked on. Like, he like crashes in like this sub and he's staring at the blue fairy he was looking for, and it's like there's the ending. But no, then hundreds of years later, like he gets taken out of the ice by super advanced robots, which really confused people at the time because they didn't know those were super advanced robots. They thought they were aliens, which completely changes the ending completely. They're not aliens. People just let you know they are super advanced robots that had evolved from the existing robots after humans had died out. I don't know. It has a nice score. It has a nice look. But I feel like it's just a failure on all fronts.
The whole aliens thing is just like,
well, they're not aliens.
The cherry on top of a turd, man.
But yeah, it's so unneeded. But yeah, one of the reasons we wanted to revisit it, because the whole thing was in the last years, it was a big deal that a lot of people were saying, the movie was sort of unfairly judged in its time, and now people are coming around to it and saying actually it's one of his better films and it's misunderstood. I mean, if you feel that way, it's valid, but I can't. We revisited, Jay and I did, and and I can't. All I can find is more problems.
That must have been a fun to sit.
Well, I mean, it's not horrible and unwatchable.
Right.
It's just all the flaws to me are very apparent. They're right there.
I'm trying to remember like the middle of the film. I'm like, I really don't
nap you
remember
took?
where he's. I'm sure I did take a nap. But, the Jude Law thing, like, I don't know, he was kind of funny. He wants to fuck everything.
You mean Gigolo Joe?
Yeah, his name's Gigolo Joe or Juggalo. Or Gigolo, yeah, you're right, Gigolo. I'm saying Juggalo.
Juggalo Joe, that'd be cool.
He's this robot that's like programmed to love ICP hundreds of years after the band is gone.
That would have been a better movie.
That's a robot we need in the future. Hundreds of years in the future, the band is long dead, but there's some robot that's programmed to be like the ultimate Juggalo and carry on the love for their music. Oh my God!
I'm trying to think of more ICP references, but I can't.
You down with the clown, yo?
We gotta pitch that one to Hollywood because that's a movie, man.
All he does is drink Faygo, and
and nobody understands any of his references and stuff.
And
Like, what are you talking about? ICP, yo. Juggalo for life. But yeah, Gigolo Joe is fairly funny. It is kind of funny that you have this kid who doesn't know much about the world, and then he's paired with an adult figure who also doesn't know anything about the world except for sex. That is kind of funny.
I would watch it if he was a Juggalo, though. I would watch the hell out of it. That sounds really cool.
Is that an edit we can do?
The Juggalo Joe edit.
Turn him into a Juggalo.
Oh God.
It has a nice soundtrack, I'll say. It has like a main theme that's very pretty. If you like look it up on like YouTube or something. So
imagine how much better it'd be if ICP scored the film.
Oh, beautiful.
Brilliant stuff. They are artists. That's the only word that encapsulates.
Kids in the woods and shit.
What's up, ninjas?
Yeah. I don't even know enough about their shit to even put any jokes down. I'm like, what are they about again?
All I know
White
is
trash, like
smoking
drugs and doing dumb shit. I mean, that was
Great Malenko. Check it out. It's a good record. Very funny.
Ork, you were a big ICP fan. Tell us a little bit about their art, about their work.
Don't they do like backyard wrestling as well?
That sounds like they're.
I wouldn't be surprised. It sounds about.
They have their brand of everything, and it's all complete dog shit. And if you paint your face and you're not imitating Pennywise, you're a fucking dumbass. And you should.
What's that movie they made?
I'm gonna stop while I'm ahead.
Big Money Hustlers. They had Dolomite and.
Oh God.
How do you know the names of these records, Mike? Oh my God! Holy shit!
That's a fair question, man.
Mike is a closet juggalo.
Hey, if you ain't down with the clown.
Apparently, I'm not. Thank fucking God.
Horace Jan, you're bad for the Fred Durst.
To me, they're like the rap version of Steel Panther. It's like a parody band. It's hilarious, man. I mean, oh God, their lyrics are just so stupid but so funny.
They're like Kiss too, because they paint themselves and sell a bunch of merch with their shit all over it.
Yeah.
They're like the
Jizz Master J and what's the other one's name? Stab Master Mike.
Show some knowledge. Shaggy Too Dope.
Insane clown posse.
Ork was more into emo music back in the
Violent
day.
J and Shaggy Too Dope.
There it is, Violent J.
Violent J, I've heard that before. At least I've heard that.
Ork was a big emo kid in high school.
Yeah, dude, I loved Alanis Morissette, Hanson. That's my jam. Yep. Third Eye Blind, all that gay shit. Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Baiting to the Hanson.
Let's talk about Minority Report.
Which should have had music from Hanson.
Let's go back to ICP. It's more entertaining.
Which actually, I actually remember more about Minority Report than I do AI. I saw them both in the theater. I remember Minority Report being fun, but kind of, I don't know. Again,
future cops go back in the future to stop past crimes or something, or
well, no,
they
not to stop past crimes, to stop crimes that are going to happen.
They have these
pre-crime. It's crime prevention.
They have these
like Van Damme did it better.
He doesn't go
It's
back
not
in
the
time.
same
It's
thing.
psychics.
It's similar. It's similar.
It's psychics that see the.
I don't know. I'll say
future
something right now.
times.
I mean, Mike felt like his great movies ended with Resurrection. I think this is his last great movie. I'm not saying it's as great as the other ones, but I think this is the last great movie he made. I just rewatched it again, and I think it's a really good, surprisingly good movie that has a lot of layers and a lot of stuff going on.
It's not bad. I watched it the other day. That's actually one I did watch.
I liked it.
Wasn't it Colin Farrell's like big like launch movie?
That was
No, he's in it. I don't know, but yeah, maybe he's in it.
He was written to be an American, but they didn't think he could pull off the American accent for the whole movie, so they just wrote him as Irish.
There you go.
Might as well.
And then,
Which
and
is-
then a year after, he was the villain in Daredevil. So
Yeah.
that was great.
And they Irished the fuck out of that. They're just like, what if Bullseye was just the most Irish guy you ever saw?
But
That's
that's
basically what they're going for.
it's a pretty big testament to the guy. They must like really like him if they're like, man, he can't keep this accent up. We got to like rewrite the script to make this shit fit.
I really like Minority Report. The concepts, there's so many layers. There's so much stuff going on. But I really like the world. We'll start with that. It's a really good future world. When I talk about sci-fi, I usually say, there's sort of like a clean world and a dirty world. I like the dirty more. I like an edgy Blade Runner more so than a Star Trek. This is basically a blending of both in a lot. You have like the utopian future with great technology and, cool floating screens and things going really well. But there is a dark, edgy side to it too. I think is great. The movie has a really cool look used through the bleach bypassing effect, which it's hard to explain, but it's something that changes the colors and makes the shadows jump out more. It basically gives a bright, colorful movie still a film noir effect, which I like a lot. I don't know. I think about color a lot because nowadays, like, this isn't bleach bypassing, but a lot of films have done this other thing that just seems to drain the color out of them that I can't stand. They do it in the DC movies that I think looks really awful. Everything's so dark and pale. But so, yeah, it has a great visual style right from the beginning. The whole opening scene is kind of breathtaking when you think about all the different angles and stuff you're seeing. You're seeing stuff that's happening at different times, and you're seeing different angles, and you're seeing different points of view. It's a very complex opening scene, but I think it succeeds because it totally tells you what is going on and what the movie's about and how everything works and stuff. It's based on a really cool short story of the same name by Philip K. Dick, who, also did the short stories that led to Blade Runner and Total Recall. This is another big one. And I love how they pull it off, to tell you the truth. I'm not a Tom Cruise fan, but he's fine. He's fine. So I don't know. I think this is his last really great movie. It's there's just so many themes and stuff going on in it, and they changed the twist, or not the twist, but they changed the ending because or not the ending exactly, but the whole. Okay, I'm trying to think. The whole action that sets this up, of course, is that he's a pre-crime cop or whatever, and suddenly one of the psychics involved has a vision of him committing a murder. That's what it's about. He has no idea why, and then he has to go on the run and find it. And the solution for that in the book is a lot more complicated than what they do in the movie. In the movie, full spoilers for everybody, what happens is after he sees this, after he sees the vision of what is this? Okay, hold on. Sorry, this is so confusing. But basically, it's the main bad guy frames him. He retrieves a vision, and he retrieves a vision he's not supposed to see of one of the psychics' mothers being murdered, because that's how she wound up then there. The big bad realizes that now that Tom Cruise has this information, he knows too much. So he sets him up by using the fact that his son has been kidnapped against him by getting some homeless guy and paying him, or not homeless, I don't know, some criminal or something. But anyway, not paying him, saying that his family, if he acts like he's the one that killed Tom Cruise's kid, so that Tom Cruise will kill him, he'll give him a bunch of his family be provided for. That's what's going on in the movie. It's so much more complicated than the other. But the whole thing is, okay, again, a Minority Report is when there's three psychics, when one of them actually sees a vision that's different than the other two, and the whole thing is asked to be suppressed so the public doesn't know, because they need people to believe that this is an absolute, that there aren't any sort of wavering things. So in this, there's actually 3 Minority Reports. All 3 of them see something slightly different. One sees one where he commits a murder. One sees a future where he doesn't. And one is where he sees the future where he doesn't and then decides to commit the murder because of it. Okay? So that's already super confusing. So you've got murder futures and a murder production. So anyway, it has to do with that, and it's a lot more complicated. So I'm kind of glad they changed it for the sake of the movie. But I don't know. There's just a lot of great themes about predestination and a lot of moral questions about the law and what law enforcement should or couldn't do. Because what we have realized is like they're lying to the public, and again about they're shown giving a speech or a tour of the place, telling the people, oh, the precogs live great lives. We know the precogs don't live great lives. They live in tanks where they're constantly drugged and keep in a state where over and over again they have visions of murders, which is horrifying. And the movie's about him, eventually rescuing one of them from it and stuff. But it's also like the thing, like, is this something we should do anyway? Even though it's a bad thing to those, it can stop, people from getting murdered, and they have all these testimonies saying all this. But then you find out there is some doubt to it, and I don't know. I like how it brings all that stuff up, especially the police stuff. The police in this movie are terrifying to me. If we ever get to a point where the police can arrest you for stuff you haven't done yet, they fly around in jetpacks, and when they want to go into a building, instead of just going into the building, they release terrifying spider robots that crawl on your face and scan your eyes. Like, I love that scene. It's like, oh, there's a lot of people in this building. We'll just release some spiders. And then these terrifying nightmare creatures go into the building, and everybody, and shows all these big nets. Two people are fighting. A husband and wife are fighting viciously with each other in the kitchen. And they both just stop and go. So the thing can climb and scan.
No, it reads their eyes, is what it is.
Yeah, it's an identification thing because Tom Cruise is in the building. This is after he's had his eyes swapped out. So yeah, so I'm terrified of the cops in this world. Although I think 6 sticks are a great idea if we could have them because it would save lives. Because that's a great way to stop people without injuring. If you can hit somebody with a stick and it instantly makes them puke, they're not going anywhere, and then you're not injuring them or shooting them. So that would be pretty cool. I don't know. I think I just watched the movie and I feel really high on it. I think it does a lot of things really great.
I prefer the batons from Demolition Man myself, but whatever.
They're cool too.
Yeah, the 6 stick was also in Kick-Ass too. I saw that a few months ago. It brought that back, and the chick's puking and shitting herself at the same time. It's pretty awesome. But no, this Spielberg made this, and he told his cinematographer that he wanted this to be the grossest and the dirtiest film that he'd ever made. And I think he achieved that for sure, because the main scene that sticks out to me is when he gets his eyes removed. He goes and sees this doctor, and it's Peter Stormare, who every time I see him in anything, I think of his role in this movie. It's just this nasty doctor, and it turns out that he actually had arrested him in the past. So he's the reason why he lost his license. So you're kind of like, oh shit, he's about to take my eyes out. But he replaces his eyes, and it's just really nasty. The whole environment is just really gross.
Plus, he takes his eyes with him because he still needs them to get into other things. And there's a part where he drops them, and he has to catch them. So in a Spielberg movie, you have Tom Cruise reaching through a grate on the floor to catch his dangling eyeball. You got to give Spielberg credit there because it's a very dark, visceral movie for him for sure. I think it's really good.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it. It's been a long time.
But stuff like free will and determinism. It had some really. I mean, for a movie that's over 15 years old now, it's very prescient about some things about the future advertising. Because every time you go into a place, you are bombarded by advertisements that know exactly who you are, which already fucking happens. We go into stores and they have our email address and stuff like that, and they already know our names and stuff. Because you walk in and suddenly on a screen they're like, "Oh, welcome back, Mr. Perkins. Do you want to get some more of those coats you bought last time?" I think that's pretty much where we're going.
Hey, John Anderton, how did those slacks work out for you last time?
And at one point he's in his house, he's a brooding guy because he's lost his kids and stuff, and he's living by himself. But he's eating cereal. The cereal box has some sort of hologram thing that's yelling at him, and he throws it across the screen. I think all that shit is coming. I don't think we're too far off from that at all. The film takes place in 2054, which seems fairly reasonable for a lot of this stuff.
That's why when stores offer free Wi-Fi, they're not doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. It's they want you to connect because that helps them identify you while you're there. That's kind of the stuff that I do. Sorry.
Monster.
My apologies.
There's way more depressing shit. Keep
You
going.
see people's identities?
No, well, not that part of it.
I want to know everything you look at, so I know exactly what I can send ads to, so you can buy it.
You just want to know their demographics and okay, you're this, and this, and you like these things.
It's exactly that. It's because you know, when you're doing like when you have an email address, obviously like that, we can link back to a person. When you go to a website, you can draw up a cookie. If you're even on your mobile device, you have like an advertising ID. Like all those things can be stitched together. But like the piece that's always missing is like, well, when these people actually go to a store, what can we do? Well, one of the ways that they're doing that is like if you have the location on your phone turned on, there's little beacons that activate. But connecting to in-store Wi-Fi is another thing, because when you do that, the device ID on your phone can be captured, and they're like, oh, hey, this email address matches this thing. It's complicated. It's sort of scary, but kind of cool, and I don't know.
So you guys know I really like porn, right?
We have to keep those cookies in a very special malware.
You guys have like flagged me already.
Yeah.
They keep those cookies in a very special jar.
Mhm.
I don't know. Anyway, I just really like it. I like its themes and execution. It's a great world. It's like a post-cyberpunk kind of thing. I'm a big fan of cyberpunk and stuff. And going into it, I didn't have great expectations for it because I thought it would be too clean. I thought, oh, Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg, like it's not going to get as gritty as I want to, but it gets quite gritty, which I really like. And it had, you know, some pretty cool action sequences and stuff, some chases. And, so yeah, to me, it's the last really great movie he made. Roger Ebert, who I never agree with on most things, named it the best film of 2002. I don't think that, but you know, it was a great success. It was a huge success.
It had a TV sequel, I think, last year or a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Recently.
That
I saw
completely bombed and wasn't any good, but it was
wasn't
on.
any good.
I mean, the camera work is great in this. It's a very active camera, going all over the place, giving us different shots and angles and reverse angles and stuff. I mean, it's one of the ones where you can really point to Spielberg's technical ability, because it's a busy film. There's a lot of things visually going on and stuff, all while telling a fairly complex story. So yeah, I have to give it really high marks for that, because there's just so much room for problems and errors. And I'm not saying it's a perfect film. It certainly has its problems, but yeah, I'm pretty impressed by it, having just recently rewatched it.
Well, let's move on and let's talk about Catch Me If You Can, which is actually the last Spielberg film that I saw. Saw it in the theater too. And, I recall liking it quite a bit.
Yeah,
I loved it at the time. I don't love it now, but it was one of my favorite movies at the time. Now I like it fine, but I was a huge fan of it for like 3 or 4 years after its release. I bought it. I watched it a bunch. I don't know why, but it was just one of my favorites back then. Now I've cooled on it. Now it's, I think it's pretty good. But for whatever reason, I loved it back then. But him working with Tom Hanks again, first time with Leo DiCaprio. It's a true story, pretty much told quite faithfully. I mean, I looked into it, since I was a big fan of the movie, I did look into it. And a lot of that stuff is very close to what happened. I mean, there is some stuff that's exaggerated and changed a bit, but I mean, it's an interesting kind of life to lead. A life of fraud, but pulled off so well and so young. He's like 16 when he starts this stuff going.
Has anybody else seen Catch Me If You Can?
Mm-hmm.
That one I haven't.
Thoughts
It's a really good movie. I like it a lot. You're missing out, Mike.
No, I was gonna go see that movie, but I was on I was following ICP on their world tour around the country. So
okay,
yeah,
I believe that.
That's something we'll spend too.
Yep.
But I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched it in a bunch of years, even though I don't love it the way I used to. But yeah, I mean, I'd say it's definitely a really solid movie. A very interesting story. His dad is It's not as important, but it's interesting to think. I always get a kick out of when they make certain celebrities related to each other in movies. I get DiCaprio being Christopher Walken's son. It seems so weird to me, but so he's only in the movie here and there, just in like scenes here and there. He doesn't get to do much, but he's okay in it. It's right before Walken just decided that his life is a joke and just be a joke of himself. Like he's still being at least somewhat serious in this movie.
Wait a second. Piz, you didn't see Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Nope.
Really? Wow. Can't believe that. Okay. Interesting.
Yep, had no desire. And I'm a huge Shia LaBeouf fan. So. But yeah, just no desire.
Interesting.
I heard Shia LaBeouf actually cut off one of his testicles for that movie to make it more realistic.
Sounds about right.
He would. I believe he would.
And I'm sure he made a movie out about that part too. He probably live streamed it.
I'm sure he Snapchatted that shit somewhere.
Well,
I mean, I respect Shia LaBeouf for like wanting to do different things, but he's also a huge attention whore. Like everything about his life is look at me, look what I'm doing, look. Like I don't know, it's hard.
I was at home.
Really like it. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about The Terminal. Has anybody seen The Terminal?
Yeah.
Once.
One of the only Spielberg movies I truly dislike.
What'd you think of the film, Stingray?
Forgettable. I enjoyed it for what it is. Not really something you're ever going to go back to the well and watch again. Well made, and of course Tom Hanks killing it as always. It's kind of an odd thing to even make a movie about, but I enjoyed it for what it is.
So, the movie's about a guy who basically lives in JFK Airport for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's like what his country ceases to exist or something while he's in the airport.
Yeah, like they won't allow him to leave the airport, but then he can go back to where he is. So they have to work out some technical details. So he makes a life in the airport, and
yeah,
there's really not much to do in the airport. So that's why there's not much to do in the movie.
Yeah, I strongly dislike this movie.
I mean, considering what it's about, I think it's a better movie than it should be.
Right.
And Tom Hanks is attempting some embarrassing Eastern European accent, which I don't like at all. He just sounds like he should be going after moose and squirrel or something.
He's Borat.
Yeah. And I feel bad because I think Tom Hanks is above that as an actor. I feel like this is Tom Hanks like reaching and being stupid and cartoony.
Now I picture Tom Hanks starring in Borat. Jesus. He's awesome.
Probably would have been better.
I haven't seen it in a long time. I mean, Catherine Zeta-Jones is in it, and she's very beautiful back then, which I guess is good. But that's like the only good thing I can say about the movie. I don't think the movie has any reason to exist, and it just seems like a dumb thing for people as big as Spielberg and Tom Hanks to get involved in.
I mean, maybe he was trying to do something quieter after something.
Sure,
like,
I mean, again, not everything has to be a massive endeavor.
Probably a low-budget film, I would think, or lower.
I hope so. It's in an airport.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of venom for it, and I'm a big fan of Spielberg, and most of his movies I really like, or at least like okay. This is one of the few that I don't like at all. Don't like anything about it.
It's similar to Piz's disinterest in Indiana Jones. I had no interest in seeing this.
There's no real reason to.
It didn't appeal to me, so I never did see it.
I don't remember the circumstances why I saw it. It's not like I went into it thinking, "Oh, this is gonna be awesome." Like, I can't remember exactly why I saw it. I just don't like it.
It's there, like maybe time waster at best, but it's not like great movie.
Again, it was one of those movies that was like I heard Spielberg directed. I was like, why? What in the material, attracted him to that project? I mean, why?
Maybe it was just to work with Tom Hanks again. Maybe Tom Hanks was attached first. I don't know.
Is it based on a true story? Like, did this happen to somebody?
I don't think so.
Like, because Mike's question kind of got me thinking. Like, I don't know, maybe Spielberg thought there was like an interesting real life story that he wanted to tell. I don't know.
Just keep in mind, a few years later, he made a movie about a horse. So, I mean, a horse.
I didn't see that one either.
Based on a true story, though, right?
Yeah, that was based on a true story. Yeah.
Well, let's move on. Let's talk about. Let's see, where are we?
War of the Worlds.
It's War of the Worlds.
Oh yes, War of the Worlds.
There we
Sorry,
go.
I totally overlooked War of the Worlds. Yeah,
I actually saw that one.
I missed this one too. What were your thoughts, Mike?
I mean, it was I don't know. I didn't really care for it. I saw it on a double bill at a drive-in with Batman Begins, and I enjoyed Batman Begins more.
Oh my god!
I would hope so.
Yeah, it's a weird double feature, but I like the original, the old school one. I think that one's better. But Tom Cruise I've never been a huge Tom Cruise fan, so that always brings it down a notch for me anyway. But I don't know. I didn't think it was that great. The effects were pretty good, but people getting scooped up into the baskets and stuff. There was some good stuff in there, I guess. But overall, I didn't really care for it.
I saw in the theater. I liked it, but I like Tom Cruise. I mean, there's a stupid bit with his son, and then when you get to the ending, if you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. Like, what the fuck?
There's a lot of stupid bits in there.
But I like Dakota Fanning. I like Tom Cruise. I like the effects. Morgan Freeman does the narration at the beginning or end of the movie.
Right. Yeah.
And I like the bits like when they walk out and it's all this dust, but it's all blood. And bits like that I enjoyed for a popcorn movie. Like, I mean, I liked it for what it was. It wouldn't be in my top 5 Spielberg movies or anything, but I enjoyed it. But again, I like Tom Cruise.
Stingray, thoughts on War of the Worlds?
There's some interesting stuff in there. Not really that good of a movie, though, in my opinion. It's Stone mentioned in the comments that he likes the 53 version, which I do too. And this kind of does some things like the 53 version, but also does some things that are different. And I don't know. It's just not something Steven Spielberg should have done.
Yeah. This story's been done again and again and again, and I just didn't think there was anything fresh about this take. Like, Tom Cruise is great, Spielberg's great, Dakota Fanning's great. It's just like, why War of the Worlds? Like, I don't know. It was unremarkable to me.
Mm-hmm.
Also, not a fan. One of my main problems with the movie is the deliberate choice they made, which I get, like, some people want to see it, and that was to never change perspective. The whole point of the movie is it's Tom Cruise's perspective, start to finish. It never goes anywhere else, and that's on purpose, so it's not a mistake. But I don't like it. If I want to see a War of the Worlds movies, I want to see, like, with different characters and them saying, meanwhile, in this place, this is happening. And so this was the idea was, here's an everyman. He's just some guy. He's not with the government or the military. He's just some guy, and here's his family. And he's there when it happens, and let's follow him around. It almost made me feel like I was watching a found footage film, except, like, it looked a lot better. Right. Like, it didn't move the way I would want a big disaster epic thing to move. And that was a choice they made. They wanted to do that. They're saying, we're going to stay. And I get what they're doing. They're trying to show some little vignettes about humanity. You know, he's down in the basement with a guy who might be crazy, and he's worried if he protect his daughter. And I think he beats the guy to death with a shovel or something.
Tim Robbins.
Yeah, it gets pretty crazy there.
I like that part though with Tim Robbins.
His little bitch of a son is just like, I don't like you, Dad. I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna be a resistance fighter or whatever.
Yeah, his son's a real cock.
And they're all getting caught in these weird nets and stuff. I don't know. So it's weird. They're right close together, but
that son was the worst.
We're gonna get into a bunch of movies. Like, once we get to a point, I haven't seen it. But we're gonna get to a point where I haven't seen a lot of his recent films. But of the ones I know, like the two right next to each other, I don't like are The Terminal and this one. I don't like either of them. I can't find things to like about them. I feel like they made bad choices and stuff. And I mean, obviously, it's a big movie with good visuals and stuff like that. But again, their choice to limit it the way they did kept it from being as cool as it could have been or should have been. And as they said before, like, you know, the story's basically already been told in other ways, and this is not like a new wrinkle or anything. It's just kind of more of the same.
I guess I liked that it kept it simple because there was Independence Day, which kind of did where everyone else and the whole world and all these different characters. So maybe they didn't want to copy Independence Day. Maybe that's why they did it too.
I can understand that. Like I said, I can understand it. I just didn't like the execution as it turned out. I didn't like just following Tom Cruise. I was bored.
Well, maybe when you pay to have Tom Cruise in your movie, you really need to follow him around to justify it. He's in every scene.
And he is. Yeah, Dakota Fanning is fine. She was, probably one of the better child actors from her era.
It's like a movie with this as a subject matter. I should like it more. It's like it couldn't decide. Does it want to be like an Alien, End of the World type movie, or like a Steven Spielberg type action adventure movie with Tom Cruise
with a family dynamic?
Exactly.
I love the original film so much. When I found out that Spielberg was doing a remake, of course, expectations again maybe shot me in the foot there. But yeah, it didn't give me what I wanted.
Well, let's move on. Let's talk about Munich. Anybody seen?
Am I the only one who saw it?
I've not seen it.
I didn't see it.
Okay, I will say I saw it and I like it. and I understand why it wouldn't have caught on with a lot of audiences, because it's not just serious subject matter, but somewhat controversial. And it's a long movie, and it has parts that probably would lag. I think a lot of you guys would probably find it boring in parts, but it didn't bore me because I was dialed into the story. I was very interested in the story, so even the stuff that seemed more laggy doesn't bother me. It's about Operation Hand of God, which the Mossad's, the Israeli government, sent their Mossad agents in to basically try to hunt down and kill people that they thought were involved with what happened at the 72 Munich Olympics, where the Israeli athletes were kidnapped and murdered in a huge debacle, something that changed sort of the face of terrorism in the world because it was such a spectacular failure. All the hostages died. The German police just weren't trained properly for the scenario, and they really fucked up, and one of them got killed, and they did kind of everything wrong, and it all ended in fire and death and a horrible international incident. Although, I mean, it did have some good repercussions in that the Germans learned from it, and they out of it, I can't remember the name. It has like GR88 or something. I can't look it up. But anyway, they created an anti-terrorism squad that to this day is considered the best in the world. That other countries actually go to learn to them about how to do like anti-terrorism methods and stuff. So I mean, that shows something. But anyway, that's not in this movie. This is about Germany. This is about the Israeli response. Eric Bana plays a Mossad agent who gets sent on it. And his unit specifically, they said, your targets are just going to be in the European countries. You're not going to deal with any of the Arab countries, and you're not going to deal with the Eastern Bloc because we don't want to piss off Russia. So there's a lot of historical context going on here. You have to understand the Cold War context. And the main thing that makes the movie really iffy, of course, is the Palestine-Israeli thing, right? That's something even I don't want to touch with the 10-foot pole. I'm not qualified to weigh in on it, but we'll just say it's to this day, it's a very messy situation full of a lot of violence and death. And the main reason I think this movie gets criticized is because it actually tries to tackle it. And some people I really do disagree with, though. Like, some people, there were people that really, really came down on this movie hard and criticized Spielberg because they said he was doing a false moral equivalency, saying that he was trying to make it look like the Mossad agents were just as bad as the people they were hunting. I didn't get that impression at all, because basically all the movie is basically saying is, a very simple thing, which is, does it do any good? Even if they got the right people, and there's no guarantee they did. In fact, one of the things that got left out of the movie is this thing called the Lillehammer incident, where that squad accidentally killed a completely innocent guy in Norway. And they completely leave that out of the movie. But that's true. They thought he was somebody else. They misidentified him and murdered him. And the Israeli government has never taken responsibility or apologized for that, even though they just murdered an innocent citizen. That's not even in the movie. But the point the movie makes is, like, you have these guys, they're the squad. Daniel Craig's one, Eric Bana's the main guy, some other guys. And the idea is they're going from target to target in various European countries, hunting down these guys and killing them. But they're just getting intelligence fed to them that they have to believe is true, although they don't know if it's true. They're just saying, oh, yeah, this guy, he was part of Black September, which is the name of the terrorist group. But they don't know. And then they just meet them and kill them. The whole point is, yeah, does this do any good? Was it even, should the Israeli government have bothered? Is that justice? Does that help in any way? If somebody commits an act of terrorism in your country, and then you just go into other countries and do a bunch of extrajudicial killings, are you solving anything? In the end of the day, it doesn't bring back the dead. There's no court of law. And again, this is so hard to prove. They don't even know if they killed people that were actually attached to it or not. A lot of people believe that the people who were the real architects of Black September were nowhere near any of these things, that they were in the Arab countries and they were protected. So it's a very controversial thing about that, about whether or not they actually accomplished anything. And so you've got them arguing with each other and doubting them. And some people said, oh, they never showed any doubt. They were loyal and stuff. So it's a very muddy issue as far as all that goes. And I'm trying to take it outside that and whether it's a good watchable movie. I think it is, but I think you guys probably, a lot of you might find it dull. Well, but I like it. I like how authentic the 70s is, the locations and stuff. There's a really good scene where they're going to kill a guy by bombing him in his townhouse in this downtown. And so really, again, this Spielberg, kind of at the top of his game, filming a really complicated scene, because you've got a guy who they've already broken into the house, and the whole thing is they put a bomb in his phone, just like in real life. This is what happened. They put a bomb in his phone. So basically, when somebody calls, they will call the phone. When he picks it up, once they get him on the line, they'll have this detonator thing with a key. They'll turn it, and that'll blow him up. And the whole thing is, so they're going to do that. So a couple of them, including the ones at the detonator, they're in like a van across the street. Then there's other guys stationed here and here in the street, and they give you a really good idea of the geography. So instead of just a bunch of quick camera cuts, you understand exactly where everybody is in relation to everybody else. And there's a part where his daughter is going to answer the phone. So one of them is running down the street to yell. He's like, abort, abort. And then later the girl catches a taxi and leaves, and now he's alone, and then they do blow him up. It just filmed really well. Like, that's a really complex, difficult scene to pull off. That could have been confusing, that they do a great job, again, of just location and understanding where everybody is. So I appreciate a lot of stuff like that. Eric Bana is a dull actor himself. You know, there's nothing really memorable about these characters, but I don't know. Jeffrey Rush is in it, and he's quite good. Jeffrey Rush is kind of like their handler, the only guys who will report back to. Because the other thing is, like, these guys have left their families for years, and they can't tell anybody. For years, they just have to go and kill people they've never even met and leave their families behind. And it's completely off the books. This, you know, again, this was something that the Israeli government would have disavowed. So I understand all the things. I think it's a success as a movie, and I like it quite a bit. But
well, let me ask Orc a question here. How would you ease tensions between Israel and Palestine?
Oh, please no.
Oh, it's easy. You know, it's just you show them. A friend once said to me a few years ago. He said, "Just watch Kingdom of Heaven," and that's how I watched that movie, and that's how you solve it right there, dude.
See, I love that movie, but it ruins itself with that simplistic message at the end that just ruins everything.
It doesn't matter what the message is. They get leprosy, and it's got Ava Green. What more do you want, Cole?
I'm just saying, that movie would have been awesome if it didn't just track on at the very end some, like, stupid thing about comparing, you know, the situation in the Middle East back then to now. Like, simplistic and terrible thing to do. Otherwise, I like that movie, too. But, yeah, there's a scene in the movie where, like, they've got, like, this French guy who's feeding them intel, and he's going to send them to, like, the safe house where they can lie low. And in the safe house, there's a whole bunch of terrorists from other organizations. So they have to basically pass themselves off as belonging to, like, the IRA and all these other organizations. So they're like, oh yeah, we're big terrorists too, you know. So, and there's a part where Eric Bana is actually talking to a guy who is linked to the Palestinian, maybe not Black September, but the whole Palestinian thing, and they have a conversation about Israel versus Palestine. And I'm sure that made a lot of people mad and uncomfortable, because again, he was kind of just showing them as two men with different points of view, but they're really kind of the same deep down. They don't even like when you do that. You can't even do that, because they'll get mad. Like, you can't just say, well, this just shows that Israelis and Palestinians, you know, they both have their point of view and they're both people protecting their home. Neither side accepts that. So I'm not saying it, even though it's just so easy to fuck up.
I don't appreciate the Eric Bana bashing, because he is the Incredible Hulk.
He's so bland.
Okay, he's the definitive Incredible Hulk in my book.
Anyway, I like the movie, but I think it would be a hard sell for a lot of you guys. It's long and it has some scenes that I think are kind of draggy, but
I feel like I'm being racially profiled on here.
I just really I know you guys hate the Jews, so you wouldn't.
What are you talking about, bro?
Because that's another thing, you know, it's Israel, so it's all about showing, like, the Jews pushing back, right? It's like, we've taken a lot of shit, and that's one of the reasons why it happened. It's like, you know, we're going to show the world that you can't just murder Jews anymore and get away with it. This isn't like the old days, like, with the Holocaust, and that is very much true and stuff, but again, it tackles that whole moral question of, is vengeance or revenge, you know, does it do any good? Is there any point to it, et cetera, et cetera. But
I think there's a line in Knocked Up where they make reference to Munich. Okay. And I forget the line, but I remember it being kind of funny because they're talking about, like, badass Jews like Eric Bana and Daniel Craig or something like that. And I just remember that, like, it's going to be like Munich. So I don't think they have your nuanced view of it.
Let's not forget the baddest ass Jew who's ever been in
trying to be nuanced, because
and I'm talking about
stuff.
I'm talking about Master of Horror Eli Roth.
Fuck yeah.
Oh my god.
Master fucking
Eli Roth did what now?
He was the baddest ass Jew ever in a movie.
Oh, except that shit.
Oh, and Glorious Bastards.
The Master of Horror, him.
The Bear Jew.
Exactly.
Anyway, I like Munich. I think it's good. So.
Anyway.
I understand why it didn't do too well, because it was controversial and it was long and it had slow parts. So, you know, it had a lot of things working against it, but I still really enjoy it.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, I'm interested to hear from you, Indiana Jones hardcore fans. What's your thoughts on this movie?
I saw in the theater. I've always enjoyed it. It is the weakest of the four, but I've never hated this film. I have little nitpicks. I would say CG monkeys need to fucking go.
Yep.
There was too much, more practical locations, less green screen.
Thank you.
But other than that, I like the plot in the 50s. It made sense. I'm fine with the aliens. I mean, if I could deal with an arc that opens up and melts people's faces and a knight that lives in a cave with a magic cup, I'm fine with aliens. I like Harrison Ford. It was great to see Karen Allen back. I'm a big fan of her, and I like her that's come back from the first movie. Never hated Shia LaBeouf. I liked films like Eagle Eye and Disturbia, and for the role he was supposed to play, I was fine with it. I've seen much worse. The action sequences I enjoyed, the opening. The Nuke the Fridge, people always talk about it, but there's insane sequences in every single, Temple of Doom, they fly like 5 miles down a mountain, and then they fall 5 more miles down into a river, and then they don't even have a scratch. Last Crusade, the entire airplane go right by them, and then keeps going and blows up in front of them. Is insanity in all of them. I think it's a fun romp. Other than too much green screen, I think it's a fun adventure movie. I had a good time in the theater. I own the film. I always enjoyed it. But I think it's a fun movie. I've never found it as bad. It's not like the Transformer movies to me.
Oh God.
People say they're the same, and I entirely disagree.
Yeah,
I would disagree as well.
I think that's what I always push back on. Is they're like, "Oh my God, it's so terrible," and I'm like, "It's just not though. Like it absolutely has things to criticize, and Rambo covered I think all of them. But I don't know. I enjoyed that movie. I went to the movie theater and I had a good time watching it. I did not enjoy like the subsequent years having to argue with the hardcore Indiana Jones fans. It's like, well, it wasn't a religious artifact. Who the fuck cares? Like, is he an archaeologist or not? I don't understand why that matters. So the aliens thing, and also too, like if you remember, it isn't even that they were just aliens. They were like interdimensional beings. Yeah. And I don't know. I thought that was kind of a neat spin. Like not just aliens. They were kind of something else.
It's based on something real, the crystal skull thing. That's a real.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Those exist, and people really don't have an explanation for them because of the way they're cut. It seems like it shouldn't be possible. And some of the heads look really big, kind of like aliens. Is just kind of where they got right. It's like, why are the heads shaped like that? Like humans don't have heads like that. I don't know, but I'm going to say, I fit on the side of hardcore Indiana Jones fans, so I could easily be one of those people that would, be really upset about the movie, but I'm not. The fact is, I'm hardcore in the way that I was just happy to see him again, okay? I knew it couldn't be as good as the others. I knew it couldn't be. As long as they didn't ruin it, it was okay, so I was happy to see them again. I wish it was somebody who wasn't Shia LaBeouf in that role, and a bit too much CG and stuff, but I don't have any trouble with the story or the stunts or the action sequences. That's all fine. Not as good as the other three, but I never expected it. I always thought the three were, to me, they're perfect movies. And this one is an imperfect one, but I was just happy to see those characters again. They could have just completely fucked it up, and I guess a lot of people think they did. In South Park, they're like, "Oh, he's raping him." No, I don't see it that way. To me, it was not as good, but I was happy. I was happy to see them again. I also won the movie. I'll give it a watch again probably sometime soon. Because I just accept it can't be on the level those were something magical, but it's pretty good, and I'm mostly happy with it. Of course, it has its problems, but no. So I'm a hardcore fan that does not hate it at all.
I think if I had any major complaint, it would have been, I really wish the movie didn't deal with Indy's age as much as I would have liked them to. Like Indy's really still out there doing kind of all the same stunts and jumping around and running around that he was doing in the other movies. And there's not much of there's not really a lot of acknowledgement of.
They do the scene where he swings and he fucks up and he lands back in the truck.
There's that, and then there's just
doesn't he have a line at one point where he says something like, "This used to be easier"? Doesn't he say that? I thought he did.
You're right. There's these very chosen moments, but other than that, he's still getting into a complete slugfest with a giant muscled Russian, and
I guess I'm happy about that. I don't want them to constantly have him talking about how he's old.
I don't know.
Turn into Danny Glover saying he's too old for this shit, or Terminator Genesis, where every 5 seconds Arnold's going, "I'm old. It's old. The flesh is old."
I think I would have preferred something more like Rocky Balboa, where like he is old and they acknowledge it, but it's like part of the story. He's still doing the things we want him to do. It's just an additional layer. But to be clear, I still enjoyed the movie. I'm just saying, like, that is one aspect that I just thought,
Hey, Bruce,
it
I'm
made
gonna tell
sense
you.
to talk about.
I'm gonna tell you, Bruce. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. Hey, get
Thank
back
you.
up.
Thank
So
you.
fucking get back in it.
Yeah.
Too bad Harrison Ford can't pull off being a professor.
Mike, what's your thoughts on Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
I'm pretty much in agreement with these guys. Rambo nailed all the negatives. That was beautiful. Awesome. I am a hardcore Raiders of the Lost Ark fan, and all of the sequels pale in comparison to the first movie to me, but I enjoy them all, including this one. I thought it was good. It was good to see the characters back, like Cole said. There's some things about it that, but I liked it. I thought it was good. Good balance of action and comedy, a nod to the past, but still doing his thing. So it was good. I look forward to the new one they're working on.
It's not like it's Die Hard 5.
No.
Oh God, no.
Can I just say, I am completely shocked by this. I was expecting Mike to be like on minute 10 of his 25-minute rant about how terrible this movie is. So I am pleasantly surprised, and I'm glad to hear this. This is fantastic.
I like the alien MacGuffin. I think it's cool. I mean,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of artifacts to go after.
We're the only people on the internet that think
I thought I was going to be in the minority. I don't dislike the film either.
I actually quite
They're
like
extra
it.
dimensional beings, as they point out. So why not?
Shia LaBeouf, whatever. But other than that, I mean, it's good.
I don't even dislike Shia in this movie, man. I don't really have a problem with it.
I don't
I
dislike
really
him.
can't.
It's an important role to me, and I wish it was somebody I liked more. I guess he doesn't ruin it. I just would have liked to see somebody I have a higher opinion of. I guess.
Right.
I mean,
But
I feel like
he plays it fine. I mean, he gets a little bit. What do you want, old man? I mean, he's got a little too much attitude. But they deal with that.
Well, it's the 50s because
Yeah, exactly.
he's a greaser. He's got an attitude. Hey, yeah, hey.
I mean, I feel like at some point they just need to pull their dicks out and measure them, really, because they have to like one up each other the entire movie.
Well, I'm glad that they didn't try to fake that they were going to pass it on to him.
Yeah, the thing with the hat was great, right?
Yes.
That was great. Yeah, and he
That
grabs
was
the hat. And
perfect.
he's like, "That's my hat." You know what I mean? I was like, "Yeah,
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a good ending, right? Because it's like, oh, passing the torch. Nope, give me my hat.
Would you rather see a young River Phoenix in that role?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, of course, if it's possible.
It's not possible.
My favorite part of the movie is when he's in the refrigerator because it has to do with food. Yep.
Well, let's move on. Let's talk about the Adventures of Tintin.
I think Cole's gonna have to.
I'm the
lead
only
this one
person that
'cause
saw
I
this.
never saw this either.
And I'm like the only person that even seems to know what Tintin is. I know that Tintin.
Right? Like Rin Tin Tin.
No,
Rin Tin 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 on top, right?
nobody knows what Tintin is.
Is that Blues Traveler song? Where the ring, bing, bing, bop, bop. That one.
Jokes aside, does anybody know what
No.
Tintin is?
I do not.
I've heard of it, but I
Okay,
don't
so
know. it.
Tintin is a very long running comic strip from a writer called Hergé in Belgium. And it ran from like the 30s right into like the 80s. And it was just about Tintin was like a young reporter, and he was always on the move, and he was having like these adventures in like the Cold War backdrop. And of course, some of them are really old. It's full of like horrible white colonialism and racism, and there's also one where Tintin goes to the Congo. This is just the comics, not the stuff that came later, where he just basically murders every animal on the African savannah in horrifying ways. But anyway, taking all the politically correct and historical stuff outside, I mean, what it came down to was I think in the 90s, and I used to watch it on, because I had Family Channel, which was our version of Disney Channel, was they made cartoon adaptations of some of the bigger arcs. And it was just always adventure stories. There was him. He was just this little guy with black dots for eyes, and he had his faithful dog, Snowy, this little white dog. He had a captain, a sea captain who he was best friends with that was always going, billions of blistering blue barnacles and stuff. There was a professor called Professor Calculus. It was a very male-centric world. There were almost no female characters in it. But anyway, he just went on various adventures and fought against foreign agents and stuff like that. It was just that sort of thing. It's this little guy, but he could pack a punch, and it was just and some sci-fi in there and stuff. There's one where he goes to the moon. Anyway, they're all in French, but they've been translated to English, and they were really big deal throughout Europe, and were never a big deal here. But Hergé was, he's one of the giants of the medium. And I didn't know the comics when I grew up. When I was a kid, I knew the cartoon adaptations of it. So all this is this kind of the same thing, except it's CG cartoon. And it just adapts several of the arcs and combines them into one. And it does a fairly good job of it. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's very like an Indiana Jones type of setting. You know, it's set back in the past, like, I don't know, maybe it's the 40s or very early 50s, definitely not beyond the 60s and stuff. And yeah, and he's just he doesn't have a lot of personality. He's always been sort of a blank slate character. He's not a deep character. And the fact that they make him a reporter is funny because, like, that's just an excuse for him to go places. In the comics, you never see him, like, reporting or talking to an editor or doing anything that has to do with being a reporter. That's just his backstory. You have to get him, but these were just little adventure comics from many, many years ago. Not a lot of, but I'm just surprised you guys never even saw any of the cartoons or anything. But anyway, so for me, I was, you know, I knew the cartoons and I'd known the comics by this time because I'm an adult at this point and stuff. I even have some of the collections in the original French. And yeah, they're just little adventure stories, not a big deal. So the movie is what it is. It's a fairly good adaptation of that. It takes about 3 or 4 of the more famous arcs, kind of combines them into one story. And yeah, it's just a high adventure thing. He's out on the high seas, and there's, I don't know, there's a pretty cool like chase through some like African city with a tank. Yeah, it's a lot like kind of like a cartoon Indiana Jones type thing. There's nothing amazing about it, but yeah, I'm just surprised nobody knows, because I know that in the U.S. it's not really a big thing, but it's not in Canada either. But for whatever reason, we got the cartoon on Family Channel. I used to watch the cartoon, and I enjoyed it for what it was. Just very simple, kind of just for kids thing, not very detailed or layered, but I like it a lot. So
I don't remember them. I don't remember them ever airing the cartoon in the U.S. either. I don't remember ever seeing any channels.
I know I've heard of it, but yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
But that's all it is. It's just little, fairly simple adventure, globe-trotting adventure stories is basically all it is. And Tintin's just this little guy. He's got a little white dog called Snowy, and they go around, and they're always stumbling onto some sort of plot with foreign agents trying to get them, and there's always some weird MacGuffin they have to save, like a microfilm, you know, all that stuff that, you know. And that's all it is. But, you know, it's got kind of some nice characters. Like I said, Captain, I can't even remember his name anymore, but anyway, the captain, he's pretty funny. He's like this drunken brawler of a captain, and he's always, you know, he's kind of like every sort of like drunken sea captain cliche rolled into one. He's kind of funny, and there's a few other characters like that in moments. Like, the only female character that ever really was recurring was just like this opera singer. So there's even a part in the movie where I knew exactly what was going to happen, because there was all this thing about like stealing some artifact that was in the area while she's giving a performance, because they knew once she hit a certain note, the glass of this case would shatter from it. Like, I knew that was coming because I'd already seen it before, and it's in the movie. So, I mean, it's not an amazing movie, but it's pretty well done. I think the only reason it didn't do well is because I guess the American public doesn't know who the fuck Tintin is. Because the movie, there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine.
I think it did pretty well overseas.
Yeah, I would imagine, because Tintin's a big deal in Europe. He's a really big deal. But anyway, so yeah.
When you make a European cartoon that wasn't shown in North America, I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, I know, exactly, right? I mean, even with Spielberg couldn't save it. But I mean, it's well done. I'd recommend it. It's a good watch. Just don't, you know, it's not particularly deep. You know, it's just high adventure with fairly one-note characters. That's all it is. And it has a certain amount of charm to it that I enjoy.
Chloe Grace Moretz was cast. They thought that she was British. It wasn't like a few weeks into filming before they found out.
Yeah,
because he wanted only British kids to be in the movie.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, it's not even that British. Oh yeah, and there's a couple of British recurring characters who are cops called Thompson and Thompson. These guys with mustaches that look the same, but one is Thompson with a P, one is Thompson without a T, and they're just bumbling detectives. You know, they're all very one-note, simplistic characters. Because again, this is just based on like a more or less for children comic strip. But the movie's good, and I would recommend it. It's worth a watch. It's nothing amazing, but I'm pretty sure that is the last Spielberg movie I've seen.
Has anybody seen War Horse?
No.
Stingray, didn't you say that you saw at least some of Lincoln?
I saw Lincoln.
That was
I've seen some of Lincoln.
Oh, okay. Well, tell us about Lincoln, Mike and Eric.
Well, if you know the story of Lincoln, it's pretty much the story of Lincoln.
I know the one where he's a vampire hunter.
Yeah,
don't spoil it.
It's not zombies or vampires. It's actually like Civil War stuff and politics and arguing for the ending of slavery. And Daniel Day-Lewis does a great job as being Lincoln. I mean, we don't really have an idea of what Lincoln was actually like.
Yeah,
but
exactly, right? So,
I guess he did a good job. Sally Field was her normal Oscar grabbing, wanting self. I mean,
wait, Mike. All I need to know is, does he talk about milkshakes in the movie?
they talk about what?
Milkshakes.
I don't remember. I don't remember the pivotal milkshake scene. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What a Daniel Day-Lewis movie without milkshakes.
Does he die at the end?
Don't spoil it.
He's rescued by interdimensional aliens.
Does he
Paul
have a glass
Giamatti's
eye?
in it. Paul Giamatti in that? I don't remember him being in that movie. Anyway, good performances. I mean, it really happened. I don't know. I already knew about it before I saw it, so it's kind of like watching a story you've already seen before. But it was well presented. It was well made. But I never felt the need to watch it again. It's kind of like I already kind of studied this before, but cool story, bro.
What do you think, Eric?
So it sounds like Mike saw the whole movie. I only saw about like half of it. I told you I only saw part of it. But it, my opinion is kind of the same. Like, it kind of reminded me of like, John Adams or any of those kinds of movie. Like, it happened. Daniel Day-Lewis seemed like a pretty good Lincoln, I guess. The other actors I thought like acquitted themselves well. It was just it was kind of an interesting choice because like wasn't Lincoln a movie? I'm pretty sure Spielberg was developing that movie for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Because I remember this was being talked about in the late 90s at least. And I think Liam Neeson was supposed to be Lincoln at one point, and I don't know why that didn't happen. I don't know if he was doing something else, but it was fine. And again, I thought the ending was pretty poignant and good, but
I liked Adams.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was. It didn't change my life. What I saw, like, it didn't really encourage me. Like, oh, I really like to sit down and watch this whole thing. It was like, oh, okay, what else is on?
It's a good representation of what happened in that era and how he dealt with political adversaries and what was going on. I mean, but if that type of stuff interests you, then you probably like it. If not, then you probably won't. But it's well made.
It's the kind of movie that keeps you on your toes. Like, what's going to happen at the end? You don't know.
Yeah.
So just keep
that ending. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I was going to ask B-Movie Mike, was Daniel Day-Lewis Lincoln as good as the Lincoln in Bill and Ted?
Again, I don't really have a reference point. Although the Bill and Ted Lincoln was pretty kick-ass. I'll have to say
he was. Yeah.
Sid party on dude, so he wins.
I think Daniel Day-Lewis stole everything from him. I mean, yeah, I think he was just
He stole everything from Bill and Ted.
He actually looked more like what I would picture Lincoln to look like more than Daniel Day-Lewis did. I don't know.
Let's see. What about Bridge of Spies? Has anybody seen Bridge of Spies?
Nope.
I haven't seen it.
No.
I have Piz. You guys are all movie fucking nerds.
It was at least one that I was thought about watching, but I haven't yet.
Well, tell us about it, Orc.
I really can't because I'm fucking dumb. But anyways, it's like the movie Breach. If you've ever seen that, has anyone seen that?
No.
That has Matt Damon as a cold. Is that Matt Damon?
No, I don't know the guy's name. But
well, anyway, it's another CIA Cold War movie.
Yes.
Is that the guy from Annoyed Day last summer?
Oh, that has that Chris guy who's really mean.
Ryan Philippe. I think Ryan Philippe.
Who's that mean guy though? He's
Ryan
in Breach?
Philippe.
No, the older guy who actually is
Tom Hanks.
No, the opposite. No, this guy's the opposite of Tom Hanks. He's really mean in every movie. He has a
the
mean,
guy
mean
who's
face.
in Breach is the guy who's in the Kingdom.
Yeah,
Why are we talking about The Breach?
Because it's like Bridge of Spies.
Orc brought it up because
It's
it's like
another
Bridge of
CIA Cold
Yeah.
War Russia thing. That's why.
Chris Cooper?
Chris Cooper, thank you, man.
Stone
he's
Gassman said.
so mean. Thank you, Stone Gassman. Because yes,
Anyway.
he's got that mean face. He's like the anti-Tom Hanks. Anyway, continue, please, Orc. Thank you.
Bridge of Spies is a dank movie. Check it out. Does it hold up to his older stuff? No. I haven't seen Minority Report, so I couldn't tell you if it's as good as that. It's just a good what Cole's saying that subject.
Well, and the film
Cold
was,
War Spies.
and the film was co-written by one of Cole's favorite filmmakers, Ethan Coen.
Ugh.
It's basically
really?
Tom Hanks is brought in to exchange spies. Russia has a spy.
Yeah.
And we have one of their spies, and that's the whole premise of the movie. And it's really a big conundrum for Tom Hanks to be able to work it out. I think it's a really good movie. I mean, it's just more of that, like, if you don't like that type of subject matter in a movie, it's really just a drama. So
Yeah, I want to see it. It's like probably his most recent movie that I'm interested in seeing.
You're not interested in the BFG?
Yeah, I was a big fan of the book when I was a kid. I don't know. I just kind of naturally. I didn't like how it even looked like, so that hurts off.
I don't know. I mean, I thought
it was. I could watch it.
I thought it was weird because, I mean, isn't this like a kid's movie and it's called BFG?
Yeah.
Big effing giant? I mean, that's weird.
I mean, after Doom, really, you can't name it that, right? You got to
Big friendly giant.
I thought it was
based on a
big
book.
fucking gun.
Oh,
That's a big fucking gun. I'm like,
Based on a book by
that's a
what,
weird
Old
Spielberg
Dahl?
movie.
Yeah.
The same guy that wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach. I mean, this guy goes
Old
back
Dahl.
a ways. Old
This is
Dahl.
another one that Spielberg has wanted to make for a long time, but he couldn't until the CGI got to where he could do it.
I actually just watched it last night and I was kind of pleasantly surprised by it. I actually enjoyed it.
It's on my Netflix. I'll probably check it out at some point.
It's not bad. It's a return to a whimsical fantasy world where I think Spielberg, should stay. That's where he's the strongest at as far as storytelling goes. Lots of suspension of disbelief. It's a fantasy. It's a children's fantasy. So, but the BFG is actually not the biggest giant. And I don't want to spoil it too much, right? But he befriends this little girl because he's the vegetarian giant that doesn't eat people. They kind of strike up a friendship type of thing, and then they team up and get everybody else involved. But I don't know. I kind of liked it. I thought it was the BFG. I thought they did a great job making him a character, considering the guy that played him is like 5'6", and they made him look 24 feet tall. And they blended it well with the girl, and I thought the animation and the live action was believably blended. All the characters were good. It's a movie for kids, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. I was surprised.
Cool. Has anybody seen The Post?
No.
No.
Okay.
I've seen The Postman.
I've seen The Postman too.
This piece shitty.
I'm sort of disinterested.
Yeah.
The Post, I haven't seen. I know it's got nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture.
I'll tell you something that I am interested in, and that's Orc's Dank Meme of the Week. What do you got for us, Orc?
Orc's Dank Meme of the Week. So Cole is very, he has a lot of movie knowledge, and he's a movie goer that memes a lot on the norm, But
I don't like where this is going.
He's never seen There Will Be Blood, and I don't know why. Because if you have a milkshake, Cole, and you have a straw, and it you gotta fucking see. I can't do it justice. I can't. Oh my god.
You got a straw.
Yep.
Okay, Orc, give us a Orc's pro tip of the week.
Orc's pro tip of the week. Okay. If you're ever feeling down and out, Canadian style. Always find a beverage that you like, order it from Amazon, but sometimes it's going to cost you an arm and a leg because they raise their fucking Prime Pantry prices. Thank you, Jeff Bezos. And, I don't know.
Don't you have pretty good access to beverages?
No, I haven't been to a store in like a year and a half. So, no.
Wow.
For the most part. Yeah.
You're gonna love it when you get back. There's so much better now.
Everything's different.
Everything's so much fun.
I won't get back. That's the trick here. Yeah.
So many beverages.
Yeah.
So many more fat people on scooters.
Now, hey, I got to give Pizzelle and Jay credit, and I said this in the chat a few days earlier. Like, do people fight over those scooters in the South, or how does that go? Because
specifically in the South, in the South.
Oh, dude, I kill someone every time I go near a Walmart to get on one of those things.
I thought Wisconsin was the fattest state.
Let me tell you, one of the funniest things I've ever
because
seen.
of all the cheese.
One of the funniest things I've ever seen at a Walmart. There was an old woman in one of those scooters. She had a cup of coffee in her hand. She had the choice to get up off the scooter and step down off of the there was like a lift off of the
I love it already.
She could have just. I mean, she could have just got up off the cart and stepped down onto the street and walked to her car, which I'm sure was illegally parked in a handicap spot.
Mm.
She decided, I'm just going to blast this scooter right off the thing, holding a cup of coffee. I mean, she pulled like this Fast and Furious move, and the scooter was just. It looked like she was going to die. Her coffee was flying everywhere, but she held right onto the coffee. It was like, it was just one of those things you only see at Walmart. But whenever I go to Walmart, I think of this old woman in the cart blasting off of the
They have like a lift thing to bring it down.
No. She just, I mean, like she could have even,
but there was one.
She could have even went down the ramp, which would have maybe cost her an additional 10 seconds of her day. She said, "Nope, I'm going straight off the edge. I'm not going around. No, straight off the edge with my coffee." I mean, this old woman was a straight savage. It was gas as hell.
That's a gangster, man.
So, just for a fact check, Arkansas is the most obese state.
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
I thought it was Wisconsin.
Wisconsin doesn't even show up until number 14, where it is tied with Tennessee.
Okay.
Let's leave it at that, Eric. Let's leave it at that.
Trivia question: what's the most in shape state?
Man,
Look it up. You know?
I apologize, Wisconsin. I guess it's been a while.
All right. We've had a lot of people request a Stingray spotlight. Stingray, what do you got for us this week?
All right, guys. I laid some little seeds earlier, right? I mentioned it earlier. Never Too Young to Die. Y'all seen this?
Yes.
Oh.
John Stamos doing gymnastics. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Gene Simmons is
I
a
haven't seen this,
transsexual.
but I saw that you were looking into it.
Gene
That's
Simmons
the one
is
where
a transsexual.
the transvestite Gene Simmons.
Yes.
That's like the bad guy that.
That's
That's gloriously horrible.
At the end of the movie, they rip his top off, and it's like it obviously cuts to like a female who actually has like real breasts. Awesome! It's an awesome movie.
I've got to watch it then.
It's great.
God.
I've got to watch
You
it.
haven't seen it, Rambo?
I've heard of it, but
man,
I
it's right
saw
up
the
your alley.
trailer and training Gene Simmons. I'm like, it wasn't on
I
my
saw it on
to-do
your
list.
letterbox, and I was
Look,
like, "Oh
um,
shit!"
It wasn't on my to-do list.
Vanity is in it.
Yeah.
Fully nude, back, front, everything, and it's pretty awesome. She seduces a very young John Stamos,
Well, that was pretty much how she spent the entire 80s, man.
but it was on point.
The
Are they the ones who
synopsis.
sing- Are they the ones who sing "Nasty Girl"?
And
Are they?
Was Vanity and Action Jackson?
Yep.
Oh,
The
sure.
synopsis is incredible. A top secret agent is murdered, so his estranged son, a high school gymnast, teams up with his dad's attractive female partner to stop the psychopathic, hermaphroditic gang leader who killed him and now plans your terrorist attack. This
Jesus.
is via
How
the
can you not want to
IMDb.
see that?
Bus and
How can you not
seats.
want to-
I guess now I gotta see it.
I've got to see it now. I mean, I've got to.
I was showing some of my buddies the other day. I was like, "Look, you got to wait till Vanity comes on, and you'll thank me." And they did.
All right.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh my God, you should read the synopsis. This is the Google synopsis. A spy's son, played by John Stamos, inherits a case of heavy metal. She, Gene Simmons, out of foul city water with a floppy disk. They call him a he. Is that politically correct?
Oh, I don't think so.
Is that even a term? I've never.
This is on Google. This is Google's own synopsis.
I've heard like my
Bunch of
racist
racists.
uncle say
Oh
some
my
shit
God,
like that.
Google! It's not 1982.
Yeah, that's a he over there.
People can't handle that kind of
Everyone's
language
like
anymore.
waiting.
Don't you know?
Google. I thought you were more progressive than that.
That's pretty disappointing, Google.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed in you, Google.
And I'm also disappointed they don't mention the fact that he's a gymnast. I mean, that should be in the.
That's critical.
The gymnastics is key.
All right, guys. I'm gonna let's do a vote here. We've only got a short time left. Do you guys want a wise words from Mike, a Rambo's Rage, or an Eazy-E's fondest movie memory?
I got to go with Rambo's Rage on this one.
Oh,
Can I do all the above?
I vote for Easy.
I want D.
I'm gonna make a skull, a metal skull, and just bubble in what I want.
I want to see what the viewers want. Do
Oh, I thought
guys,
you were asking us.
do you guys want Wise words.
I gave my answer.
A Rambo's Rage or an Easy E's fondest movie memory. So far, we've got one vote for Rambo's Rage.
There we go.
Great.
Max Punisher just wants us to end the show.
Dang.
Um,
I understand that.
2 votes for Rambo's Rage.
There you go.
3 votes for Rambo's Rage.
Okay, that's
There you
good.
go. Boom, boom.
All right, Rambo, what are you raging on tonight, bro?
I have no idea. Been a decent week. I don't know. Nothing's made me mad.
Rage on.
I love the new Ninja Turtles movies. Rambo, how do you feel about those movies? Go.
I don't.
It's working.
Okay,
like
I
Rambo.
saw Black Panther. Wasn't my cup of tea. If you like it, cool. If you don't, fine. But stop being a fucking baby when someone fucking disagrees with your opinion. Stop being a bitch in heat because, oh, someone made fun of a movie. It's just a fucking movie. Relax. Some movies are not meant for everybody. People like Black Panther, that's cool. I thought it was a boring fucking movie. It's not some fucking cultural event. It's not some fucking best movie ever. Best picture to infinity. That's just my opinion. Relax. Like whatever the fuck you want. Just like whatever the fuck you want. I don't know. It's not much rage in that. It's just, I guess that's more wise words of people who like. I don't know.
I was disappointed by it.
I think you said it all there, Rambo.
I don't know. It's like 5 hours in, so I'm
Well,
not really mad about it.
let's take just a brief moment and look at what films Spielberg's got coming up. He's got West Side Story in pre-production,
Which I don't understand.
No thanks.
he's got the kidnapping of Edgardo Mortara in pre-production. No idea what in the world that's about.
Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Ready Player One. I'm gonna go watch that because Jeremy wants to go watch Ready Player One, and he has for 2020 announced an untitled Indiana Jones project.
Yeah, that's been hanging out there for a while. Ever since
If Harrison Ford is in that shit, I'm gonna lose my mind. I swear.
He's gonna be in it.
You can't do it without him.
Yeah, he'll be in it.
What the fuck is he gonna do?
He's gotta kill Indy.
The fucking yeah. I just want to get paid like $1 billion and kill me this time, Steven. Damn. Like you did in Star Wars.
Like literally, film my death. We're gonna do it on, and I'm gonna die on.
I mean,
And then pass the torch along to Shia.
There you go.
like
There we
Crystal
go.
Skull, man. His stunt man was on the screen like 99% of the time.
And once the torches pass, kill him too. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's way too far. Sorry. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, you can kill him. I mean, his name was like Mud or something.
Well, let me take a look. As far as the Viewers' Choice live commentary, we had Fast Times at Ridgemont High got a lot of votes. License to Drive got a lot of votes. Uncle Buck got a lot of votes.
There you go.
And The Burbs and Soul Man actually got the same amount of votes.
Okay, here's a rant. What's you guys' problem with Big Trouble in China, folks out there? Big Trouble in China.
We're just going to do that one, period. We're just going to do that one, period.
That's an executive decision, damn it. We're doing it.
It's an executive decision. And somebody, I think, was it Stingray? Was it you that threw out there a John Candy retro?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great idea too.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea too.
Give me an excuse to watch some of his stuff.
I know.
Stephen Bacon was a masterpiece.
Yeah, need to go back and watch some of those, man, for real. All right, well, we'll call it a wrap on our Stephen King retrospective, our 2-part Steven Spielberg retrospective. I think that's at least the second or third time I've said that. Our Steven Spielberg retrospective. Pardon me. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. Had a very lively chat tonight, as always. Shout outs to Jerp, to DJ, to Big Ideas, to Stone, to Max Punishment, all you guys hanging in there with us right up to the very end. We appreciate it. And yeah, we will return. I think we might be taking next week off, but we will return very soon. And you guys have a great one. Big thanks to everybody who joined me tonight on the panel. And we'll see you next time. Have a great week. Peace.
Yeah.